13.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday night, and here we are once again talking to you people about stuff.
Yeah. This is going to be a good case. I've never heard of this one.
This guy, I didn't really know that much about this guy. Somebody recommended him a long time ago, and I kind of looked it up and I'm like, ooh, that would be a good show. Because I'm really into true crime shit, you guys know that. But for some reason, I'm really into, like, old-timey ones. You know what I mean? Maybe because it makes me feel better about it, because, like, well, everybody's dead now, and so it's like I'm not going to offend anybody, like, talking about it. But, yeah, I'm kind of into, like, the old-timey kind of crimes, and this dude, in particular, I found, like, really, really fascinating. I was telling Tom beforehand, because he didn't know anything about him, I said he kind of slightly gives me, like, a Carl Panzram kind of vibe, but, because we did a show about him, too, but not quite the same, and I feel like this dude... And again, this is what I was telling him before the show started. I said I'm not defending the guy, because he killed a lot of people, okay? A lot. That they know of. And I'm sure it's probably more than that. But this guy, I don't really think he had much of a chance in life. Yeah. He wasn't abused or anything like that, like that they know of. But the circumstances surrounding his birth and his childhood and stuff like that, not great. So I think he might have had underlying mental issues anyway. And then a bunch of circumstances that came about later on made it worse and worse until even back in the 1920s and I guess it was like mostly like late 1920s when he committed the murders. But even people back then were like, man, this dude is a lunatic. You know what I mean? Like after they knew him for a little while. So I think this dude was like legit mentally ill. And I know that, yeah, like a lot of people would say like, oh, it's serial killers, obviously they're mentally ill, but it's not quite what I mean.
No, some of the serial killers, that's basically a sexual fetish.
Because they know what they're doing is bad.
Yeah. They're all serial rapists, really. They just kill the victim and then they get into that. So it's to be a serial killer, really, by the FBI definition of it, you have to be a serial rapist. That's the main thing. It's a sexual orientation.
Which this dude, he's kind of considered by a lot of true crime writers as like the first sexually motivated serial killer of the 20th century. Like I said, you could say Jack the Ripper in the UK, but that was like 19th century. And this guy, definitely a rapist, although I will note that almost all of his victims were raped after they were dead. So,
didn't want to be watching.
Necrophile.
Want to be alone.
Yeah. Tom's favorite topic.
Yeah,
necrophilia.
Yeah, he wanted to be alone.
There's going to be a lot of that. Because like I said, this guy did it's just not to bury the lead. He killed 22 that they know of. And it was probably more than that. Like on the Wikipedia page, they have like and then they have like this other long list of like suspected ones. And when I was reading the suspected ones, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like him. Yep, that sounds like him too. You know what I mean? But I will note also, he never confessed to a single one.
That's because he did them all.
I'm kind of imagining. I mean, They got him dead to rights. It's like, which we'll get into. It's not like, oh, he was railroaded or something like that. This dude fucking did it, okay? They know he did it. But he wasn't like one of those dudes that was like showing off or anything like that. Like he was always like, I'm super innocent and I never did anything like that. I'm a good Christian man.
Phantom Says Hard Eyes is one of the best movies.
Yeah, like our friend Roxanne went to see it. Roxanne and Dr. Michael went to see it on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like I said, we were going to go with them, but we didn't get our shit together in time.
Side Quest showed up. What Side Quest? What's
up? Hey, what's up? And Roxanne said it was pretty good.
Okay.
So we'll probably go, I don't know, maybe we'll go this weekend to see it or something.
Fix the AC in the car.
Oh yeah, Tom went to the car place and picked up the car today. It's been gone for like a day and a half. 2 days.
Yeah, it came out a lot
cheaper
than I thought.
Needed the AC fixed.
Yeah, I was expecting over $1,000.
Yeah, we thought it was gonna be like $1,000.
No, it was more like fucking $460. And all it was the compressor.
Which
and
thank
it was
goodness.
$160 for the compressor and about $300 for the fucking labor. Compressor and charged it. And I thought it was going to be the evaporator. I bought an evaporator first, also. And had that there for him if he wanted to use it, because I thought that's where the leak was. I couldn't find the leak. I shot it full of dye and couldn't find it. But I couldn't see the fucking compressor all angles, because it was I was working from the ground. Anyway, it turns out he checked the fucking evaporator, which is inside the car, and it wasn't leaking. You know, he put vacuum to it and it helped vacuum. So, good. And so just got it back.
That's what we were afraid of, is that's where the leak was. And the part is not expensive, and we already had it, but to get to it is like a lot of labor.
So I got an evaporator, a Ford evaporator. It's only $45 though, but if it ever breaks, I got one. Maybe I'll sell it to somebody who might need one.
But it's like, because Tom was like, we really have to get the AC fixed, because like, look, it's February in Florida, but it's already
getting fucking hot.
It's 7:30 p.m. and it's still 75 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, we live large over here, man.
It was actually like we actually had record setting, like it was 86 or 87 or something like that, like yesterday or the day before.
I was down there buying
some
fucking creamer and shit, fucking snacks from Dollar Store, which is not even a mile from here.
Yeah, it's like walking.
And I mentioned it, and I said, I finally got that AC fixed. And she goes, oh, you did? Yeah. It's like, and she goes, you're lucky. She goes, half the people that work here don't have AC. And I said, really? And she goes, oh, yeah. You know, he says, oh, yeah, I haven't had my AC running in my SUV in 3 years. I can't afford to fix it.
Myself.
I said, how the hell do you do this? We drive with the windows open. Because they don't make much money working there, you know.
Well, yeah, no shit.
I'm just like, because people's AC break and they just bypass it. Fuck it.
Well, I mean, if I was in that situation, like if it was my old car and my AC broke, I wouldn't have the money to fix it either. Yeah. So it's like I'd be in the same boat.
Yeah.
But
the average cost to fix it around here is about fucking
it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
$1,300.
Like I said, I don't have that. So it's just kind of like, but man, it is miserable. Driving. It's miserable driving around. It's obviously it's miserable without it in your house. I wouldn't live here without it in your house.
You can't live here without AC.
You can't live here without AC. You really can't. But you can do it with a car if you don't have to drive that much, but it's super fucking miserable.
Florida did not have a significant population until the invention of AC. That's absolutely true. It's part of the hit. It's just too fucking hot and humid here.
Yeah, I mean,
it's tropical.
Yeah, some people are saying, like, Papa 77 says 35 degrees here in Washington State. Tammy said we got snow yesterday. Yeah, it's still fucking wintertime.
Yeah, it's almost 90 here.
Tell Florida that.
It was 88 degrees.
Yeah, it was like up in
and
the
100% humidity.
It was up in the upper 80s today.
Yeah.
I don't even think I went outside. Yeah. I think I opened the door and was like, fuck this shit.
100% humidity all the time.
I mean, yuck.
Yeah.
So I was like, I mean, it's still... We could still have a few cold days here and there, but that's pretty much all she wrote, to be honest. I have known it to get cold like one night in March. That's like the latest, like early March. Like one night it went down to 32 and we were like, wow, you know what I mean? But that's about it. So it's probably just going to be warm from here on out. So I'm just glad that we got that AC fixed.
Yep.
I didn't know it was going to take him so long because he went and dropped the car off and I'm like, hey, I got to go to the store later. And he's like, oh, they're going to keep the car for like 2 days.
Yeah.
They can fix it.
Yeah.
Because it's a small shop and they get kind of backed up. CB
those dudes remembered me too.
Well, yeah, we've taken it there like a bunch of times.
They knew I was ready to spend money. And they go, well, let's see what it is. Because they didn't really want to go and go in there and replace that fucking evaporator. They go, evaporator cord? I said, yeah.
They were like,
says you can get to it through the engine bay, though. And they're like, you can? And I said, yeah, it's not that bad. Because sometimes you have to be in the cabin to get to it. But you can get it from the engine bay.
I mean,
and they said, well, we're going to check. And I said, yeah, check it.
Yeah, it's like, don't replace it if you don't have to, obviously, because you don't have to pay all that money.
Yeah, and then got a call back from them. They said, oh, good news, man. It's just the compressor. I said, really? He goes, yeah. It's $305. I said, okay, great. And I already gave him the compressor.
Yeah, he bought it. And
I got a fucking $160 fucking compressor off of fucking Amazon.
Yeah.
A generic
and
compressor.
Just took it there. It's like, hey, he put this in.
I was like, it seems to be working. But
he drove it around earlier and said, yeah, it's working.
They got Ford parts on there.
Okay.
The fucking one that's fucking Motorcraft with a Motorcraft label on it's probably $300. Then they want a core exchange and shit, you know. But the thing is that I think they're all come from the same factories, and then brands buy them, sub them out.
I mean, probably.
Because I looked at it, it looked just like a fucking. It looked just like a Motorcraft fucking. It looked like anything else. It looked like the fucking compressor was on there. Exactly. Look what I say, but it was in a nondescript box. No printing on it. Just numbers.
Yeah.
No brand. I guess it doesn't matter. It worked. And then the evaporator core looked perfect that they sent me. I was like, that's it. That looks like it came right from fucking Ford. So I guess it's all China and Mexico.
Like I said, I'm just happy that it was only like $300 something.
Yeah, that's a lot less than I thought.
Because I was thinking it was going to be like.
Because I bought that new squat machine too.
Yeah,
that shit on my Amazon
and that
card.
was like 500 and something.
Yeah, 550.
So
Jim was on that swap machine working that booty out. I'm gonna get on
it's
there.
nice. I like it because it's like I like doing. Well, I don't like doing squats. Nobody likes doing squats, but
on that machine's a lot easier.
But it's much easier and it's much safer. Like I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm gonna fall over or drop
Yeah.
shit on myself or anything like
and
that.
she was fucking squatting. What was that? 90.
I have no idea. You put the weight on there. I couldn't
90,
see it.
It's like 125 pounds. You were squatting about like 125,
Okay.
which that's pretty good.
And I could do quite a few, but then like
Yeah.
after a while I got too worn out and I couldn't do it
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm gonna get on there too.
I don't remember how many I did, but I was just
Yeah.
like after a while it was like nope.
Yeah,
My leg said nope.
yeah.
But that's
I'm gonna fucking get some booty meat too for all my gay fans.
you gonna get booty meat.
Yeah, I need some more booty there to hold my
You-
fucking pants on.
you're gonna
I'll walk
try.
around my fucking pants. If I don't have a belt on, my pants just fucking slide down my waist. Just
Tom wants a BBC.
yeah.
B-
no, BBL.
A BBL.
The BBC and a BBL, two different things, Jim.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I was thinking of something else.
Yeah, BBL.
BBL.
Brazilian butt lift.
I was thinking you needed like you just wanted like a bigger butt is what you wanted.
yeah.
You want a big Tom butt. A BTB.
Yeah.
That's what you want. Or a BTA. I don't
Well, I've worked on all the other muscle groups.
know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got good thighs. I got good. My calves are fucking award winning. They look like fucking rotisserie chickens, man.
Delicious.
Fucking, I need some glutes, man.
So I should eat your shins first if that's or
Yeah,
your,
if I
or
die,
your
yeah,
calves
you
first.
go for the calves.
If ever like
Yeah.
there's a cannibal situation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Noted.
I gotta get ready for the fucking new video, man. Me and Zach. Where is Zach? Is Zach in the audience?
I don't see him. Oh yeah. There he is.
Zach is there. Yeah,
he's there.
me and Zach in the hot tub on top of the fucking penthouse at fucking
With the pink champagne and the poppers.
yeah, fucking Sands
and
Hotel.
the disco ball.
Yeah, at the
The
fucking
heart-shaped tub.
Yeah, at fucking Caesar's Palace. Fucking disco ball and everything.
And
Fucking
you need, I
Friday
feel
blasting.
that you need a rotating.
Jen's gonna be fucking
Room.
on camera. We have a bubble bath going.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have a whole tray of fucking poppers and cocaine and all kinds of shit.
I mean,
Yeah, and shots. Jello shots.
that sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Zach said, "Yeah, I asked Tom why the home gym had gay bar lighting." Yeah, he told me that.
Yeah. Yeah. Inside of my gym looks like a gay bar.
We
That's
have
what he said.
well,
That's what
we
he
have
said.
that.
I'll show you
Like,
the picture.
we have that neon lighting like everywhere, just because
They're smart lights.
Yeah, we just
They're
have like
smart
this colored, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
like we have in here.
It's like here, yeah.
We have them all over
Yeah.
the house.
Yeah, I got projection on the ceilings of fucking Milky Way galaxies spinning and
It's
shit.
just we like to pretend that we're in a nightclub 24/7, like even when we're at home.
Our friend came over. I got her. She's my new student. And she fucking loved the place. She's from the club.
Yeah.
She goes, this place is fucking great.
She's been going there for like forever. She's a little bit
Yeah.
older than we are actually.
Yeah.
But we used to see her all the time, and I'm like, damn, well, we should like talk to her because
Yeah, her name's Dawn.
I've known her forever.
Yeah,
Like, and she used to go to lunch, like, before me and you were a thing.
Yeah.
She used to go to lunch with, Brian and Beck and
Yeah,
Rob
all
and all
them, yeah.
them, like, when I used to go and meet them for lunch sometimes,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
on Tuesdays.
Yeah,
and,
all the swingers.
Yeah. Not that I ever got involved
They were.
with it.
She wasn't swinging.
I wasn't, they were
Yeah,
all involved.
they
in
were,
it.
yeah.
But, I was just like, yeah, you have fun.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, but yeah, finally, like, after a while, now that Barbarella's at the Axe Trap, and we're like, it's like we've seen you for like 4 million years. It's like, why do we not really know you that well yet? So we started hanging out with her. And
Yeah, she'd come up drinking with us at the bar. She's
And
at the
she's
club.
the-
She
yeah.
can dance and shit. She knows all the fucking cool songs. She's a
Yeah.
goth girl. She's a goth.
yeah.
In her
like
50s.
I said, she's like my age or a little bit older.
She works in the fire department.
And she's been wanting to get into working out and stuff. And then
Yeah,
Tom
she's-
was like, well, man, we got a gym if you don't want to go like to a public gym. And
Yeah.
because I don't like to do that either.
Yeah, so I got her on as a student now. She's paying me.
Yeah, so she's gonna come over. I don't know if
Yeah,
every Tuesday, but she came over last night.
She says she's going to try to come over twice a week.
Okay.
All right. She's on gear, too. She's going on gear. She's going for surgery. She's getting fucking tucks and all kinds of shit. Implants. And I said, you're going to look like one of those fucking cougar porn stars. She goes, that's the idea. She goes, I'm not going to age. I'm not going to, I'm going to,
Well, that's what we said.
I'm not aging fucking gracefully. He says, I'm going to fight it fucking tooth
So
and
yeah,
nail.
so Tom's excited because
I was like, okay, yeah.
he's been wanting a
Yeah.
student.
Yeah.
You know, because he showed me how to do the stuff, but now I just like to do it by myself.
She can do it on her own.
You know,
I taught her how to do
I
it.
can do it on my own.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Some people need guidance and fucking, you know.
So, yeah. So she's going to come over a couple times a week and use the gym and stuff like that.
She doesn't want to do it in public. She wants to be in a controlled
I don't blame her.
environment.
I don't really like doing that either.
Yeah.
The only time I ever used a public gym was before we moved in together. That apartment that I had, that had a little gym.
Yeah.
But I would always use it at like weird times, so there was nobody else in there.
Yeah, you gotta be careful though, because that's when them girls were getting fucking assaulted.
Well, yeah, I would always go like during the day, and the nice thing about that gym was that it was attached to the main rental office. So like the ladies were working in there. Yeah. So if something bad happened, they would be like right there, so you could like run in there and
they had
be
during,
like, hey.
during all. I remember when all that was going on. They had a serial offender and shit. He was fucking jumping. In Florida, the housing, the housing, what do you call them? Complexes. More towards the Orlando area, kind of congested, a bunch of little close houses together, and they'll be around a swimming pools, a hot tub with a gym. That was like a standard, very standard layout. Well, they had a guy that would show up during the day and jump over the fence into the pool area and assault women that were sunbathing. Yeah. And he'd do it during the day, broad daylight. He got like 3 of them. They eventually got him. And he was just a young guy in his 20s, and he's fucking going after fucking any woman that was down sunbathing during the daytime, like, you know, noon, around that time. That's when he was doing it. I remember when I was worried about that. Remember that? I said, you remember during that time, I was like, that dude, you know, they caught him, but there's more of them out there.
Yeah, it's like, I always like if I went to the gym, like I said, it wasn't on its own. It was attached to the rental office. Yeah. And there was like glass doors and stuff like that. So it's like they weren't looking directly at you, but there was people like right there. You know what I mean? You could just like go, and it was really small. Yeah. And if I went there and there was somebody in there, I'd be like, bye.
Yeah, a lot of the ones here in Florida, they're almost kind of secluded. The pool areas are kind of secluded.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't have gone to it if it was like that. Yeah. I only just went to it because, like, I don't want people staring at me while I'm working out, but I also don't want to be in the middle of nowhere where I'm going to get...
The last place we moved from had a clubhouse and a fucking pool, and it was beautiful. And it had fucking beautiful bathrooms and shit. It looked like something out of a damn porn movie. Entirely secluded. I'd go down there during the day and fucking lay out and shit. I could go there at fucking 10 in the morning and stay till fucking maybe noon. Yeah. And you get sun and swim and shit like that. Not see a single person.
Nobody. Yeah. Like during the school year and stuff, because everybody was working.
I was telling Jess that we just fuck on the.
Well, that's what. Yeah.
We'd tear it up.
I was like, no one's around.
No one's around.
I mean, there's probably cameras, but
I don't know. I don't remember even seeing.
I don't know if there was cameras. I didn't because we did look because we were like, are there cameras around here?
Beautiful bathrooms and dressing rooms. It looked like something out of a high.
They didn't have a gym though, which I thought was really weird. No, yeah. But they had like a really nice like clubhouse and a pool and like a little hot tub kind of area and shit like that. But they didn't have a gym. But my kind of it wasn't a shitty apartment complex. It was just kind of a mediocre apartment complex, and it had a little bitty gym. It had like maybe 3 machines in it or something. But like I said, I used to go there. I worked at night, so I could go during the day when most other people were at work, and I could use it. But there were people around, so it's not like I was out in the middle of nowhere and people were, because I did kind of worry about that. And Tom worried about that too, because I lived on the first floor, and he kept saying, you know, somebody could just like cut open your fucking screen porch and like get in your fucking the sliding glass door or whatever. And nobody ever did though. Nothing bad happened there other than roaches and noisy people, but we didn't have anything bad happen there. I don't know about nowadays. It was in Winter Park, so it was mostly like students and just like working class people, you know, because I kind of lived near used to live near UCF, so it was a lot of college students and just, you know, people that just had working class jobs. It was that just same as I had, you know what I mean? It wasn't that big a deal. All right, so
about ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna, because like I said, this is a fascinating.
Should I make you another drink before we start?
Probably we should.
Okay. All right.
This is a fascinating dude, like I said, and I can't remember because I think it was a long time ago that somebody recommended it, but I didn't know hardly anything about this guy, and I love old timey crime. I don't know why old timey is like. I like that better than modern stuff, but this guy he's just such an interesting, like, just like thinking about like how his mind worked. I just think this dude like legitimately had, I don't know if it was schizophrenia. I definitely think he had aspects of that, which we'll get into in a little bit. But like I said, he definitely, I think he was born with some mental issues, and various things that happened later like just made it worse and worse, because like even from an early age people were like, yeah, he's not quite right, you know what I mean? Even though I will say that he didn't really start killing people that they know of until he was in his like his mid to late 20s, I feel like, because I think he was 30 like when they executed him. Spoiler alert, he did get executed. But I don't think he started killing people until later. He was more like a petty criminal, just general crazy person type of thing. And he had a very, very particular MO. Pretty much everyone he killed that they know of was women. And he had a tendency to kill slightly older women. Not old, but like 40s, 50s, 60s. He did kill some women in their 20s and 30s also. I think he was more a killer of like opportunity. Like, I think he was more... I think he definitely had a victim profile that he liked for psychological reasons, which we will probably get into. But I think he was also opportunistic. Like, because he had a specific, like, modus operandi that he would do, where he's just like, hey, I'm going to go to this boarding house and pretend like I'm this person, and he would give a fake name, like renting a room, and then he would kill the landlady. So whoever the landlady was... whether it was an older, and it tended to be older women, but not always. So he would always kind of get in that way. And it's funny because before we started the show, and Tom saw the thumbnail, and he said, guy looks normal. And I said, well, that might explain why he was able to get past so many people's defenses. You know what I mean? Because he was able to pass himself off, at least for a short time, as a relatively normal person that was just looking for a room. You know what I mean? So this guy, Earle Nelson. Now, he went under a bunch of different names. I think initially the media, when they first figured out that this is the same guy doing this, it took them a couple years to catch him. They started calling him the Dark Strangler. And they called him that, I'm guessing, he was a white dude, but he had like a slightly more sallow or like a more swarthy complexion, I guess, if you want to call it that. So a lot of people commented that he had like very, very dark, piercing eyes also, so that might have contributed. And he was also either called the Gorilla Man or the Gorilla Killer. I think this is because he wasn't a big dude. I think he was only average height for the time, maybe 5'7", 5'8", something like that. But he was kind of stocky. He kind of looked like his face was kind of square. He looked kind of like a boxer, like, you know what I mean? Like, he kind of looked like a rough dude. And they said he had huge, huge hands. That too. So, and also the murders that he did were like pretty brutal. Almost all strangulation, and like I said, a lot of necrophilia involved. So there's gonna be a lot of necrophilia. I'm just like warning you ahead of time. I'll try not to dwell on it too much, but I have some ideas about why the dude did it, why he was so obsessed with the necrophilia, which you kind of went into, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, as I mentioned before, considered probably the first sexually motivated serial killer that they know about of the 20th century, at least in the United States. So, now, okay. So, when he was born in 1898. And he was only about 9 or 10 months old when his mom, Frances, died of syphilis, which she had gotten from her cheating ass husband. I'm assuming. They don't really know that much about his parents. I think his mom was like, I don't know if she was significantly younger than the dad, but I think she was pretty young, like when she gave birth to him. But she died when he was still a baby of syphilis. And his dad whose name was James Carlos Farrell, which a lot of people have thought was very funny because it's not spelled the same as feral, like wild man, but it's actually 2 R's. But some people had said, hey, like he was almost kind of like an animal too, so isn't it funny that that's kind of what his paternal last name was? He didn't go by that because he got adopted later on. But, not adopted, but, sent off to relatives. And they don't really know much about his dad either, other than, obviously, the fact that he gave his wife syphilis. So you can imagine, that shit. They think he was maybe of Spanish descent, Spanish, Jewish, something like that. Not entirely sure. But yeah, so there was that. Now, 6 months after Earl's mom died of syphilis, his dad also died, also of syphilis. So there was that. Now, syphilis, as far as I'm aware, can be passed from mother to child. So, I'm assuming that Earl, as a baby, probably had some symptoms of that from the get-go. You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure that can be passed that way.
Yeah, in utero?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I've seen some ghastly photos of people that were born with syphilis and how it fucks them up. There's photos of it. You can see them on Google Images. A person born with fucking syphilis and what they look like later on. They look just like Eddie off of fucking Iron Maiden. They look like a living corpse.
Yeah, I mean...
So their face is just, their whole body's nothing but just scars. With like a skull-like looking head. Look like a corpse. But that was probably just a very extreme case. There was a photograph of somebody that was like in a state hospital somewhere. They were born like that. Man, imagine.
Yeah.
Highly corrupted DNA.
And that's kind of the thing. I feel like, and syphilis, although it can be treated nowadays, back at this time, this is very late 19th century.
It was fatal.
There was no cure for it. And obviously it was usually fatal, and it would... you could go blind from it. You could go insane from it. So it was no joke.
Hitler had it.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing about it was that people didn't really know or care all that much about safe sex, or they didn't really understand like how it was passed. So I feel like it was a lot more common back then, which might have accounted for a lot of people's behavior, I guess.
Oh, Mustache Man, he had it. He had 3rd stage syphilis, which is remission. In remission. They could treat it and force it into remission by the time the 30s had gone around.
Yeah.
But what happens though, is that you become very robotic and lizard-like. And once you come up with an idea, you can't change your mind. And that fits Adolf Hitler. They said that once he made a decision, he would never reverse it. Even if it was obvious that it wasn't working. There's a mental inflexibility. And it gets worse with age. And it had something, and it might have something to do with Parkinson's too, because his Parkinson's started kicking in, which syphilis can't be good for Parkinson's. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not good for anything.
Yeah, it's a brain, and it's neurological diseases. It's all neurological diseases.
Yeah, Zach said, "Can it make your nose fall off too?" It can, yeah.
That's why that dude looked like something out of fucking Iron Maiden album cover. He had no nose, just a bunch of scars, and eye sockets, and fucking teeth and shit. It's fucking. And it's droopy skin.
Can fuck you up. So, like I'm saying, that's what one of the things that I meant when I said that Earle Nelson, I'm not excusing what he did, obviously, because he's a monster, but I'm saying he's born from 2 syphilis-riddled people who died when he was still a baby. Like, he didn't even remember them.
Yeah.
So, not the most auspicious start in life, I'm
just
saying.
because you're sick and shit doesn't mean you're not a killer. Doesn't mean you don't have to be
dealt with.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm just saying that... I'm not
it's
saying
more
that
like a
to
natural
excuse
disaster.
it. Yeah, I'm just saying that it's like that was maybe some of the reason.
Kind of like Whitman, the guy in the clock tower who was shooting all those people.
Yeah, you're not saying that's cool that happened. You're just saying that it was not.
He did all that shit, but
his
after
fault, really.
After he was dead during the autopsy, he had a fucking brain tumor the size of a golf ball.
Yeah.
He would have been found not guilty by reason of insanity had he lived.
Yeah.
But they never would have let him go.
Well, no, I mean you can't. And same with this. I mean, this guy, even though he was clearly a fucking nut, as we'll see.
Yeah.
They even at the end, like after they caught him, they didn't think he was insane by legal definition, as in he didn't realize what he was doing was wrong. He seemed to realize that it was wrong, but he did it anyway. And I'm not really sure if he could stop himself. You know what I mean?
Impulse control. No impulse control.
Yeah, he definitely had he was severely mentally ill, but I think he still could determine right from wrong. And that's, like I said, usually, I mean, he was actually convicted in Canada, even though he's American, which we'll get into, but I'm pretty sure that definition of insanity, the legal definition, you have to not be able to distinguish right from wrong, and I think he still could. Camp Guy said they used to require a syphilis test to get a marriage license in the state of Georgia. I'd heard that some states had that. Isn't that interesting? I guess not. Yeah, I guess they don't do that anymore. Do they not do that anymore? I mean, people don't get syphilis anymore, do they?
No.
I guess, I mean, it's
treatable.
It's pretty rare. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, now it's treatable. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but...
And I think it's easy. I think it's easy to treat. Isn't it just fucking penicillin?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Oracle saying, here you go. Depending on the results of your baby's medical evaluation, they may need antibiotics in a hospital for 10 days. In some cases, only one injection of antibiotic is needed. I'm assuming for syphilis. Reasons not to be born with syphilis: deformed bones, severe anemia, enlarged liver and spleen, jaundice, blindness, deafness, meningitis, and skin rashes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not great.
See, you can catch syphilis and have it for quite a while without it really fucking you up. And during that time, it can be cured. It's just later on, once it's really set in, it can go too far. You can't cure it. Eventually, catch it early, you can cure it. It can go into remission though too.
Yeah.
It just depends on what exactly happens.
It's just like I said, back in this day,
Yeah.
I kind of feel like everyone was just like banging hookers and all this other kind of stuff, and they didn't really care about. They weren't even fucking washing anything. You know what I mean? It's like they were disgusting people. So it's just kind of like spreading diseases left and right. It's like, oh my god, why is my dick falling off? Gee, I wonder. I don't know. Figure it out. But yeah, CB said it's believed Jack the Ripper had syphilis. Yeah, I've heard that. And schizophrenia, which is why he did what he did. I mean, that would explain a lot. I had heard that he had syphilis also. Like I said, I think it was pretty common back then. Pretty common. Zach says, fun fact, there's a big syphilis problem in Indiana because we're kind of ground zero for the opioid crisis. Oh, man. Yeah, that didn't even occur to me. That's pretty fucked up. Pretty fucked up. Juan says, I love the hair on Jenny. Thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, Tom got this wig a long time ago and I didn't wear it. And then because I was like, I don't know if it'll look good. But then I put it on and I was like, oh, yeah. I kind of like it. I've worn it several times, like out, and I just got a lot of compliments on it. But yeah, so both his parents had syphilis, like I said. So, and they both died when he was a baby. So he probably doesn't even remember them. So after his parents died, he got sent to San Francisco to live with his grandmother, whose name was Jenny Wilson. Now, she was a widow. I think, like, because I saw a couple different sources about this and, like, watched a couple different documentaries. I'm not sure if her husband was still alive, like, when Earl went to live with them, or if he died later, or if she was already a widow when he went to live there. I guess it doesn't really matter. Now, at the time that baby Earl went to live with the grandmother, she had two, I think they were, like, tweens, like, preteens. Kids whose name were Willis and Lillian. Now, she was very religious. She was Pentecostal. I've heard differing sources on this. Some say that she was like super, super strictly religious, and a lot of people are just like, oh, well, of course, because, you know, like real strict religious upbringings tend not to be too great for, you know, serial killers or people that already have like mental issues. But then I've also heard some sources that say, well, yeah, she was religious, but not unusual for the time. You know what I mean? What I heard was that she was very devout. She was very religious. She was very strict, but not unusual for the time. Like, no one would have commented on it, is what so I'm not really sure which one to believe. But, you know, but she was very religious anyway. And she did seem like I said, as far as anyone knows, she was not abusive or anything of the sort. She was just kind of strict and religious, and she really did seem to genuinely love her grandson and wanted to bring him up correctly, whatever that meant to her. So that's one thing. It doesn't seem that he was abused in any way. Although I have seen some sources say that she was kind of maybe distant. I mean, she had her own kids. She was a widow. She had kind of a rough life, you know what I mean? So, you know, maybe she didn't spend as much time with, give him as much attention as he needed or something like that. But the thing about it was that even when he was a pretty young kid, he was kind of a handful, okay? Let's put it that way. So that probably wasn't helping. Like, even when he was a little kid, they said that he was very hyper. You know, he acted out a lot. But he was almost kind of like, I want to say almost like bipolar. Like, he'd be super, super hyper, and then he'd be like super down in the dumps and depressed. He'd like lock himself in his room and say no one wants me and I'm going to kill myself and all this other kind of crap. Like, he would say that kind of stuff, like even when he was real little. And another thing that they noticed was that he was not real up on his hygiene, even for the time, which I'm sure was not that great. But they're like, he was just real dirty. Like, he didn't like to take baths or anything like that, and he was kind of gross. Didn't have any concept of manners, table manners, anything like that. And even from a very young age, he talked to imaginary friends a lot.
Sound like some neurological problems.
He got real into religion because his grandmother was, and he kind of memorized like all these biblical passages and would spout them off like at random times.
Yeah.
He was also a little bit of a peeping Tom. Like he would look into his I guess it was his aunt, like his aunt's room, like when she was taking her clothes off. She was only like 10 years older than him, and you know, so had some peeping Tom tendencies also, and he's pretty little at this point. One thing, and a lot of biographers brought this up, was that one of the things that he would do is that they'd all be at the dinner table, and he would pour olive oil all over his food, like drench it, and then he would stick his face in the plate and like lap it all up, like an animal. And so his grandmother's children, who I guess were his aunt and uncle, they just thought that was the grossest shit ever, and they just like, which it is, and they started calling him an animal because they were just like grossed out.
Well, they didn't stop him from doing that though.
I don't know. Like, maybe they were like, "Hey, knock that off," but then he just kept doing it, and they're just like, "Okay."
Sounds like he's got some brain problems.
Yeah. So, like I said, I kind of feel like, you know, more shit happened later on that I'm sure didn't help, but it seems like even from this young age, there was clearly something not right with this person. You know what I mean? He clearly had some problems. And I think that might have come from, I think that came from the syphilis.
Might
honestly.
be, yeah.
So I think he had some kind of like problems even from birth. Because this was, I mean, he's pretty little at this point. He's like 4, 5, 6, something like that.
Okay, he's that little.
Doing that kind of crap. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, little.
I thought you were talking like 10.
No.
All right.
So, yeah, so
he's got brain damage.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I said. So that's what I meant when I said earlier that, like, I don't think he ever had a chance, because I think he had, like, some fucking problems, even, like, when he was born. So even though he was growing up with his aunt and uncle, who were not that much older than him, I think they were like preteens or teenagers, like, while he was growing up in the house.
Yeah.
But because of the age difference and because he was so weird and so gross, like, they always picked on him all the time, like I said, like, calling him an animal and stuff, which, you know, obviously probably didn't help, because he felt kind of isolated and like nobody wanted him and all this other kind of stuff. And they said this is another weird thing that he would do all the time. They said that they would put him in clean clothes, like you do, and send him off to school. And they said inevitably, when he came home from school, he would be wearing different clothes that were all like dirty and raggedy and stuff.
Huh.
And it's like, we never could figure out where the fuck was he stealing them from a child bum, or what the fuck? Like, we don't know.
Trading his clothes with a bum child. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because they weren't the same clothes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Either they were the same clothes and they were all dirty and fucked up or whatever, or that was a different set of clothes that were also dirty and fucked up.
He couldn't answer the question of where they were?
I guess not. Because you're like, what the fuck like I said, did you rob a bum child? What is it? I mean, I'm assuming that's what he was doing.
Maybe somebody was robbing his clothes.
Maybe the other kids at school thought he was weird, and so they would
just take his
clothes, and then
yeah.
they each had to take some clothes from some other
fucked up clothes
from some other homeless child or something like that. But they said that would happen a lot.
Maybe the homeless children were stealing hhis clothes and fucking he had to wear theirs.
Because remember, I was like, because they said he had a real weird thing. And I know, like, a lot of little boys have this, because my brothers were like low-key like this a little bit, where it's like they don't like to take a bath, they don't like to brush their teeth. You have to, like, force them. Yeah. They're like, they get all like that. Like, they get better when they get a little bit older. But this kid just seemed like he just did not want to wash. He did not want to wear clean clothes. He was just not having it. You know what I mean?
Maybe his clothes were too clean, so he'd go up to some bum child and go, here, take my clean clothes. I want your dirty clothes.
It's just very, very weird. It's very weird. But they said that happened a lot. And like I said, probably from the influence of his grandmother, he was super, super into the Bible and could, like, recite a lot of passages from it. There was an incident when he was 7 where he was expelled from elementary school. I could not find out what it was exactly that he did, because getting expelled from elementary school...
Gotta be some weird shit.
In the early 20th century, like in the early 1900s, what the fuck did he do? I was listening to this other, like, 3-part podcast about it. I think it was called 1159 or something. And they speculated that maybe he had eaten the class hamster alive. They were just joking. But they said it had to be something like that, because it's like, you don't get expelled from elementary. I mean, they're little kids, you know what I mean? They're kind of feral children anyway. So, like, what the fuck did you do to get expelled? But I don't know. I couldn't find out. But he did something. And they kicked him out at 7 years old because they couldn't deal with him. You know what I mean? And later, like, you know, it seems like the kids thought of him... They thought he was weird, but he mostly kind of kept to himself. But they said he had a real bad temper, though. Like, if something went a way that he didn't like, then he would just get he would lash out, you know what I mean? And be, like, super violent. Also stole a lot. Like, he got caught for stealing a lot when he was a little kid. Like, he'd go in stores and just, like, boost shit all the time. So that's pretty common, I think, with serial killers. Like, just little petty crimes like that when they're little kids. Now, when he was about 10 or 11 years old, he had a bike. I've heard that he either got the bike because it was his uncle's and his uncle had outgrown it, or he couldn't afford a bike and so he cobbled one together. I don't know which of those stories is true. But, whatever. Like, he had this bicycle, and he decided he was going to show off, like, for some other kids. Which never ends well, honestly. And he took the bike and he, like, tried to beat a streetcar. It's San Francisco.
Right.
So he tries to go over the tracks. Spoiler alert, he did not make it. The streetcar hit him and dragged him quite a distance. He had a really bad head injury. From what I could determine, they said basically there was a hole in the side of his head. Like, Damn. It fucked up his head, like, really bad.
Damn. Strike number 1. Strike 2, actually.
Yeah.
Syphilis, and now I have major head injury.
There'll be more.
Okay.
Well, like I said, head injury is very, very common.
So it was an open head injury.
As far as I could determine. They said it looked like there was a big-ass hole, like, in the side of his skull.
They're talking about a fucking open
Because the streetcar hit him and dragged him. I don't know how far it dragged him, but it was a distance.
Damn.
And he was in a coma for about a week.
Damn.
They said he was kind of drifting in and out, but, like, he was in a coma, you know what I mean? So there was that. Now, so he's in the hospital for a little while, kind of floating in and out of consciousness or whatever. And then finally, after he was in there for a couple of weeks, and then, at least according to the doctors, I guess, at the time, they were just like, oh, he seems all right now. Like, he seems like back to normal, for whatever that means. So they released him after 2 weeks, even though he was literally in a coma for, like, a week. You know what I mean? He was in a coma for, like, a week, and he had a hole in the side of his head. But he seemed to have recuperated fairly quickly. At least it seemed from the outside. So they let him out of the hospital after 2 weeks. Now, not too long after this, Earl's grandma who had been his caretaker, died. She died in 1908. And at this point, his aunt, who he had grown up with, her name was Lillian, and she was, like I said, 10 years older than him. And she had married by this point. And even though she kind of made fun of her and her brother had kind of made fun of him, like when he was a child, she had kind of grown fond of him, like over the years, and kind of felt sorry for him. So after the grandmother died, her and her husband took him in. And he at this point was about 14 years old. And as I said, he got kicked out of school when he was 7, but they put him in a different school, but he kept getting kicked out, you know what I mean? So, like, by the time he's 14, they were just like, fuck it, he can't come to school anymore. So he had just dropped out at that point because they just couldn't keep him there. So he gets adopted by his aunt and her husband, his uncle. And by all accounts, even after she found out what he had done, she still loved him. She still sympathized with him. She thought of him like a child. She knew something was the matter with him, and she felt bad. That's why she took him in. You know what I mean? She said, basically, we just thought of him as a kid. Like, even when he was an adult, they're like, we still thought of him as a child because that's kind of what he acted like. So, I mean, you know, God bless her. She really did seem to love him, even after she found out what he did. So, she has a lot more patience than I would have. I'm just saying. But yeah. So, at this point, you know, he's not in school anymore. He's a teenager. He's 15, 16 years old. This is, you know, the early 90s, like 1908, 1909, something like that. So it wasn't unusual for, like, teenagers to drop out of school and get jobs, you know what I mean? So that's what he did. And he basically just got a whole bunch of just regular, menial, working class kind of jobs. I don't even know how many he had, but it was a lot. Like, he would pretty much, like, take any job that he could get. But he didn't stay at any of them long because he would start acting like a fucking weirdo. Like, he'd be at the job for a couple weeks or something, and then they would tell him to do something, and he just wouldn't do it, or they would find him just staring off into space, or he would just put down his shit and just wander off and just never come back. You know what I mean?
Head injury.
Yeah, so obviously, you know, something's not right with the dude.
Diminished higher executive functions, what's called.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Because he couldn't stick to anything.
Couldn't stick to anything, yeah.
Like, you know, they would tell him to do something. He's like, I don't want to do that. And he would just, like, wander off into the fucking, you know what I mean? And then, like, a week or two later, he'd get another job, and then the same thing would happen.
I had that after that real bad motorcycle wreck. I was in a coma for a few days. Higher executive functions fucking were gone for about 2-3 months. It slowly came back, though.
It seems like this dude never really recovered from it, honestly.
They'll test you. They'll tell you to do something. Like, here, man, answer this phone. Stay here and answer the phone. Okay, yeah. And then fucking 10 minutes later, you forget all about that. You fucking just wander off.
Yeah, that's what this guy did.
You forget that they asked you to watch the phone.
Yeah, they said, or they would just, like, find him just, like, staring off into space.
Yeah.
Just standing there.
Yeah.
You know, shit
You
like
don't
that.
realize they're testing you, but I was in the hospital, Walter Reed Army Hospital. They asked you to put you on a job.
Yeah.
You last like 5 minutes.
To see if you could
you can do. They're testing you, though. They don't want you to do that job.
Right. But yeah, like you said, they're just testing like the extent of your head injury. You know?
Right, yeah.
Because I kind of feel like, I mean, all of this kind of stuff, this happened like a couple of years after his head injury, but because he was in a coma for a long time and they released him after only 2 weeks, I kind of feel like they didn't really... I'm sure it probably didn't heal all the way. And like I said, he had issues prior to the head injury, which I'm sure just exacerbated it, but it seemed like they didn't really give it time to like heal up.
Whoa, look at that money.
Oh my goodness.
God damn.
Thank you very much.
Who's that?
Oh my goodness.
$100 super chat.
Thank you very much.
I see that red thing.
Thank you very much. And Papa77 says...
Papa77, yeah.
So my wife said we could pay $100 for a live show about Robert Lee Yates. So here it is. We look forward to hearing what you find on him. Love the show, guys. Thank you very, very much. Do it. All right, we will definitely do that on next Wednesday's show. So there will be no poll this week. We are gonna do. We didn't do a show.
Robert Lee Yates.
Yeah, I think he was on my list already, but I just like think that is awesome. Like, that.
Thank you very much. That's a healthy. That's one of the biggest super chats. I think we only had one other one like that. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Maybe 9 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing. But
That's
yeah,
amazing.
we will definitely do a show about
It's
that.
more than what this show normally makes in a month.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, yeah, about half.
Well, because some of it's from ad revenue.
Some ad revenue, yeah.
But ad revenue is like nothing. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like a couple cents here and there. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's awesome, and we will definitely do that show on the next thing. So like I said, no poll this week. If you're in the poll, we're going to do the show about that next week. So that's good. I can start researching early. But yeah. So you guys
Everybody in the comments says, "Oh shit!" Wow.
I know, right? That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, because I think Papa 77 because when you were saying like, oh, maybe $20, and they said they were like, well, that doesn't seem like enough, like considering like all the stuff that you do. But because it is a lot of research, but
it's a lot of research, but it is a show.
Yeah.
And it ends up being.
And honestly, I have fun doing it. Like,
yeah.
It's more fun, like, depending on what the topic is. Like, I had a lot of fun with this one, which is kind of a fucked up thing.
For that amount of money, you're going to get a very complete show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I said, you guys are so welcome. But that, I mean, seriously, thank you very much. I'm just, I might cry. You guys. Said, you guys are worth it. Oh, seriously, don't. I don't want to cry. Come on. But yeah. So, like you said, I think that was a good because you have experience with a very bad head injury.
Head injury, yeah.
And
mine was a closed head injury though.
Yeah, it wasn't like a big hole in your head, but it was pretty bad. Like you were in a coma for a little while.
About 2 days.
And
in and out of it.
Yeah.
Had a frontal left interventricular brain hemorrhage.
Yeah.
From a motorcycle accident. There it comes in.
Oh, thank you very much, SideQuest.
Thank you, SideQuest. What'd she say?
Very much. I would also very much like to see this show.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you're gonna see it.
All right.
You are gonna see
another $20 super chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That is so awesome, you guys.
Yeah.
We love you guys. You know that. So yeah, it's like I'm just glad that you said that because this dude is just like wandering off and shit like that. And it gets worse like as it goes on because we'll get into
head
that.
injury. And he may have had syphilis before. That's fucking bad. Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing too is that even when he was a teenager, at least according to him and other people that kind of knew him at the time, was that he was very like a lot of serial killers. He was very he was very sexual very early.
Yeah.
And they think that he started visiting sex workers when he was about 15.
Yeah.
So even if he didn't have syphilis before, he probably got it later, and later on when they tested, he also had gonorrhea.
Okay.
So probably he also had sexually transmitted diseases from going to sex workers, which he started doing when he was quite young.
He was a dirty dude anyway.
Yes, and he was very dirty.
Yeah. Wash your shit. I had mentioned that before.
Like I said,
shave and wash your shit.
Shouldn't need to be said.
Watch porn and see what those dudes look like. That's how you're supposed to look like. Wipe your fucking crack. Shave your shit, man.
I mean, wash everything.
Yeah,
Scrub
go commando.
Scrub
shaved and fucking
yeah.
It's all good to go.
Zach says, I can't send $100, but if I fly down there and give Tom a lap dance, can you do that show about John Lennon?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Coming out here.
It'll probably cost you more than $100 to fly down.
Jen's going to record that shit. We're going to have the bubble bath going. We're going to have the
Yeah, I can record it, right? I don't have to like release it to the public or anything. We're going to make money off that bitch.
We're going to make money off that
I'll do a
bitch.
contract.
I'll put that shit. Right. Yeah, I'll put that shit on my OnlyFans. Put that shit on my OnlyFans.
We'll see.
I never did put any videos on my OnlyFans. I got OnlyFans, never put any videos on it.
I know. I keep waiting. I keep checking, and I'm just like...
They approved me. But I never got around to it.
You just never got around. I keep waiting for her to put stuff up. I'm all excited.
Got to make some videos of me and you doing some shit. But the thing is, you're not approved for it.
I know. But you can make some.
Yeah.
CB said next Wednesday is going to be a good one. Robert Lee Yates is a very evil serial killer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I've never heard of it. Never heard of him.
I've heard the name, but I don't know all the details.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so this guy, like I said, here was another thing. Even when he got, because like I said, he's about 15, 16 at this stage, and he would do the same thing. Like he would go to work in work clothes, and then he would come home with completely different clothes on.
And he's grown at this point?
He's like a teenager. He's like 15, 16.
What the fuck's he doing?
And they're like, "Are you trading clothes? What the fuck is going on?"
He's trading clothes with
like,
people.
and I guess he must be.
Yeah.
Or I'm kind of suspecting maybe he was like he was like killing people and just taking their clothes. But I don't know. I kind of feel like
his clothes would have been left behind at the scene.
Yeah, you'd think.
And then the body would have been found naked.
Yeah, you'd think.
They would have known about it. That's a signature. No. He was trading clothes with people for some reason. He liked their clothes. Maybe he was selling his clothes. And trading
maybe, yeah.
for money.
Mm.
And then fucking taking the fucked up clothes and wearing those so he wasn't naked.
Give me your bum clothes.
He might have been selling his clothes.
It's just, yeah, it was just like such a weird...
Yeah.
I mean, the olive oil thing, like, and eating out of the plate, that's pretty weird. But the changing clothes thing, I was just like... That's so specific, and, like, he did it, like, a bunch of times.
And he's doing it with another dude.
Yeah, because it's like, I guess he's got to find a dude that's the same size as him, you would imagine.
He might have a regular dude that buys his clothes. Either that or he had a gay thing going on with some dude. And
maybe.
And
I mean, he seems straight. Nobody ever gave him any.
Yeah, giving his clothes as a gift.
So fucking weird.
Taking care of him, making sure he's looking fine. He doesn't have the money to buy the clothes. So he just gives him his clothes and then takes his fucked up clothes. And he goes, oh, my family will replace these clothes anyway. Some shit like that.
It almost seemed like...
Maybe he wanted the other dude's clothes.
I just got the impression that Earle Nelson wanted to look like a bum.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
Because he wasn't stealing nice clothes. He would have nicer clothes on, and then he would steal, like, bum-looking clothes.
He was trading clothes with bums.
Yeah. I'm like, that's so... I don't know why that's so odd to me.
He said, man, your clothes are cool, man. Look how fucked up this is.
Look how fucked up they are.
I like your fucking clothes. Let's trade clothes. Okay, all right, yeah, let's trade.
It's like, okay, you got much nicer ones than me.
Yeah, that's what he was doing.
I don't know why I just thought that was so weird, but that was like a lot of people brought that up, like when they were talking. It's like he'd always come home with like different fucking clothes on.
He liked dirty clothes.
Yeah, it's man, what a nasty motherfucker.
He had a weird fetish.
That's pretty gross.
He had a clothes changing fetish.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was some kind of weird, like, fetishistic thing. Who knows?
Imagine how it's even weirder. It would also be weird if a girl was doing that.
Well, it'd be weird if anybody was doing it.
Yeah, imagine some girl, she's just going out, finding some fucking dirty ass sluts and shit, you know, hookers and shit. Because I like your clothes. This is straight. And then you come back wearing this fucking dirty street sluts fucking clothes and shit.
And your mom's like, where the fuck did you get those?
I got it from a hooker.
Nowhere.
Fucking funny shit.
What? I had these on the whole time.
Yeah. These are sexy.
I'm not really sure. Like I said,
I sucked 20 dicks today in these clothes. Oh, this is some sexy shit.
She's hoping to get the dick sucking energy.
Yeah, get that dick suck energy. Yeah.
The dick suck energy.
Yeah.
Ooh, what a good band name that would be.
Yeah.
Hi, we're the dick suck
energy. I say shit. Everybody says that's a good band. Somebody, that'd be a good shirt. Fucking
dick suck energy.
Yeah.
I can't wear that.
When Conavatslan used to be here.
Trouble.
Conavatslan used to be out here from Mexico. It's my boy. And he'd go, man, that'd make a good shirt. Make a shirt like that. So,
yeah.
Okay.
I know. It's like, and I can't
never get around to making it.
Like,
never get around to making it.
I always forgot. Because, like, I always get busy, and it's like I forgot what I was doing. But yeah, so I don't know. The clothes switching thing, it's kind of weirded me out.
Wow.
And a lot of the, well, they all thought it was weird too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, it is weird. So, so yeah. Another thing, I kind of wanted to wait till Tom came back to like mention this, but I guess I'll just say it again when he gets back. And this is another thing. I guess that's fairly common with serial killers. Is that Earl was a chronic masturbator. Now, I'm not really okay, because this is like the early 20th century, so it's like I don't really know like what they considered a chronic masturbator. Because later, I think he would say something like, oh, once or twice a day. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem excessive. I'm like, I kind of feel like chronic masturbator is just kind of like when you're just doing it all the time and like you're doing it in public and you don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like once or twice a day, that's a lot, but it's not really that. I wouldn't call that super alarming, but I don't know. But everybody said that he was like a chronic masturbator, which, like I said, a lot of male serial killers have that. I don't know about. There's not that many female serial killers, so I don't really know. So there's that, and Earl around this time when he was in his mid-teens, something like that. Like I said, he also started. I said he was a chronic masturbator.
Yeah.
But I said in the early 20th century, I don't know what they considered a chronic masturbator. Like, was once a day considered chronic? Because that's not all that excessive, I don't think. Especially a kid of that age. I kind of feel like boys at that age are like
Yeah, you
jerking it
want
at
to know
least,
you want to know the definitions.
at least once a day, right? I mean, I wouldn't think that was.
This is from an
A
era
lot.
where they thought that made you go blind and weird shit.
That's what I was saying. So it's like, so take that with a grain of salt, because I'm
Yeah.
not really sure like how often. Like I said, a 15, 16-year-old boy masturbating once a day, that's not chronic.
In the Victorian era, man, they fucking thought having sexual attraction for the opposite sex was unusual. That's why is it you want to have sex with all these beautiful women that you see? You know what I mean? Fucking, that's so weird.
Who knows?
I don't
Never
know,
even-
man. I need to be cured.
I know, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Camp guy said,
They asked some woman, "You enjoyed sex?" They go, "Yeah." Oh, you got to be locked up.
yeah, that was a
That's
big thing.
enough.
I kind of feel like they thought if a woman enjoyed sex, they thought that
There
was,
was a serious
super
problem.
weird.
Yeah.
They thought that was super weird, which is crazy. CB said, Jenny, is that your real hair or a wig? Because
That's a wig.
Sal said, yeah, it's a wig. Most of my, I don't usually put my real hair on. My real hair is just, I'm growing it out, so it's kind of like two different lengths, and it looks kind of crappy. So
Looks like a mullet right now, kind of.
a little bit, yeah, a little bit like a mullet, which you know what I mean.
She's growing her bangs out.
I'm growing my bangs out,
So
and I'm
just-
growing the undercut out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like three
Yeah.
different lengths.
So it
looks a little messy.
it's gonna be kind of one link part in the middle.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Like
trying to
that
get it
wig.
all. I'm trying to get it like this
Like the-
cut, but
Yeah.
just all black. You know. What I
Yeah.
mean?
It'll take about a year, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Phantom said once or twice a day isn't a lot at all. See, that's what I thought. It's like that doesn't seem like
Pretty
it.
normal, I would think.
I would think that's pretty normal, especially for a boy this
Single guy,
age.
yeah.
Like a single boy in like
Uh-huh.
16 or something like that. Like
Yeah.
once or twice, even 3 times, I wouldn't look askance.
You got all the fucking hormones.
That's what I mean. I don't think that's that odd. So, and Camp Guy said I'm a once a day man myself. I mean, yeah, you know, same. So it's just kind of like, I'm not a man, obviously, but you know what I mean. So
Women are no different.
yeah, not really. I mean, it's pretty much the same. And that's the thing. Like, I'm old, so I kind of feel like
Older they get, the worse they get for women, I think.
I've always found that. I mean, just
I
from
know.
from anecdotal evidence. I think, well, because the older you get, the less you give a shit. Because I kind of feel like when you're younger, there's all these expectations, like saying you're not supposed to be slutty and you're not supposed to do that, this, that, and the other. But like as you get older, you're just like, man,
You don't care.
I don't give a fuck about that anymore.
Dudes are like that, though, too. Just so you
Yeah,
know.
I guess.
We got a friend who's fucking, you know, he's fucking invited us to go to fucking Thailand with him. We were at the club. Oh, another super chat.
Oh, thank you very much.
We're making money
Michelle.
on this show.
Recent member, but have listened for a while. Love the quality content. Helps me relax and unwind. Oh,
Thank you. That's
so
the
much.
idea.
That is so nice of you to say.
That's what we wanted.
Like I said, I know we go off on a lot of tangents, but you
Yeah.
guys seem to like those. So.
Yeah, a friend of ours, fucking, you know who he is. I fucking talked about him, that bad motherfucker. He asked me and Jen to fucking accompany him to Thailand. And we were at the club, and it says, "Oh, you're gonna go down there with them fucking lady boys?" He was like, "Hell yeah, I want to
Well,
get
he's
hit.
like, yeah, that's the
Hell
way
yeah, I
he's
want to get
going.
hitting that booty by a fucking beautiful lady boy." And he says,
right,
"It's
fair
like you
enough.
wanted to run through it." He goes, "I want him to run through it." And you see, a young guy would never tell his buddy that,
But he's like,
but
our age.
he's at our age, in the 50s. You just go, "Okay,
all right.
all right." 'Cause he's not gay. He's straight. He just wants to be fucked by a woman. That's the way he's looking at it. It's in his
all
mind.
good.
In his mind, you know.
Like I said, as long as everyone involved is
As long as
consenting,
everybody-
I have absolutely no problem at
Yeah.
all.
And you know,
With whatever.
he's you know with all kinds of fucking escorts and women and shit. Fucking you
Yeah,
know.
we kind of tease him about it, but you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. He's always
He-
with
he doesn't
he's
care.
always with hookers.
he doesn't care. He's got money. He doesn't give a
Business
shit.
owner. Yeah.
Yeah, he owns somebody. He actually owns a bar across from, well, not across from mannequins, but kind of
Yeah.
cattywampus from mannequins.
And he's a mundane. He's a normal guy, but he knows everything about the underground scenes and fucking goth and shit. Like he knows.
He's
all
been
the-
going out to the clubs
He's
for
been going to the club. Yeah.
a long time.
Knows about fetish clubs
For like 30-something years, all this other
And his
but
thing
he
is-
looks totally normal.
He looks totally normal. He looks like a jock.
Kinda.
He is a jock.
Yeah.
He's an old jock, and or a sports fan type dude. But you can't judge people by how they look.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a freak. Okay, that
Yeah,
dude
big
there,
time.
man. His whole thing is just fucking.
Yeah, he's a total freak.
He thinks it's fucking super cool to just be fucking a perv, and he's an open pervert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why everybody tolerates it, because
Yeah.
he's not like shady
He's
about
not
it.
hiding it. He's an open pervert. And
It's like if you don't want to get involved, then he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, he doesn't push it or anything like that.
he doesn't take it seriously either.
No,
he
that's
laughs.
what I mean.
He laughs at
Like
all.
I said, I think that's kind of why, like people can do like what in other circumstances would be creepy shit. But because they're not trying to be creepy about it, and they're not trying to be shady, or they're not trying to like pull things over on anybody, like everybody knows the deal.
Yeah, he'll straight up go, "Oh, I'm a perv. I'm a pervert."
Yeah, like, and everybody knows that.
Yeah,
so it's like if you don't want to get involved, you don't get involved, and he's all right with it. It's like he's not going to try and make you or nothing.
Yeah, he
like
don't
that.
want to go to Thailand by himself though.
Well, here's the
I
thing.
kind of understand that.
Remember how a couple months ago, we said that our friend John had died of a heart attack in his
remember the dude that died we talked about?
We thought he was missing, and like I posted shit all over Facebook like where is he?
Everybody was looking for him.
And everybody was looking for him, and then they found out that he had a heart attack in Target.
Yeah.
And he died.
They couldn't tell anybody because they had to
they had to contact the
couldn't tell
kin. And him and Scotty were best friends.
Yeah.
And they were actually planning on a trip to Thailand this year.
Yeah.
And Scotty told me a couple weeks ago, he's like, John left me a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, $500,000.
Like, on his life insurance. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, yeah. It's like some of it went to his family and stuff like that. But he's like, he left me a whole bunch too.
Yeah.
And it's like, and we were supposed to go on a trip to Thailand this year. And it's like, and he's like, and I still kind of want to go, but I don't want to go by myself. Yeah. So he was asking us if we wanted to go. And I was kind of like...
I'd go with him, man.
Thailand. We might get in some terrible trouble.
Oh, yeah, we get in trouble. But Thailand's got fucking over-the-counter steroids and hormones and shit. Fucking all kinds of fucking cosmetic surgeries. Fucking good shit. And it's cheap. Fucking, and my credit is good there. Fucking, Hell yeah, we have fun.
Yeah, we'll see.
You can come back with a new set of fucking boobs, whatever.
I mean, yeah, depending on how long we're going to stay there or how much money.
He wanted to stay a couple weeks, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't know how long the trip was because they had booked it. I think.
Yeah.
I think he told me, but yeah. Phantom said Thailand has bars where you can get a brewski and a BJ and it's legal.
Yeah.
Oh, and Papa77 has also become a member on YouTube.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Not just giving us all that money to do the Robert Lee.
Welcome to Flash Balls. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Flash Balls. Okay. SideQuest said as long as Lady comes before Dick, then it's good to go. I mean, yeah, like I said. And like I said, the older you get, like the less you get hung up on. The less you get hung up on, like what other people are doing, and like if people
what other people are gonna think of it,
and what other people are gonna think of it, and like other people that are into weird shit and everything. I'm just like, man.
Yeah, and also,
I don't really care.
You don't give a fuck, like about. Yeah, I remember when I was young, I'd put a motherfucker in weird boxes and categories based upon fucking what they did in the bedroom and shit. But now that I got older, I realized that fucking a lot of that shit is not really what you thought it was when you see the details of what happened. Some dudes will do crazy shit, but they only do it like once. It really wasn't like them. You know what I mean? So, it's just...
like I said, I don't worry.
Yeah, everything's kind of a shade of gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is like that.
Yeah.
That's why I don't get too hung up on...
Yeah. Definitions and that's why I like. Look, man, a lot of this shit these kids do today with the fucking wearing LGBT shit on their sleeve like it's a big deal. Our generation didn't give a fuck, especially goth kids.
Well, like I said, I think
that never defined you.
In a way, it was kind of like a privilege growing up in that you got picked on a lot and you got bullied a lot and stuff like that, but you grew up in an environment where no one cared.
No one really cared.
One way or the other. Like, as long as you were into the same music as them and were kind of into goth shit, it was like... like, hey, I was doing this, that, and they're like, okay.
If you wore your sexual identity on your sleeve, that was like a faux pas. That was like, what?
I see why people do it, though. Like, especially in certain climates. But,
in our scene, fucking... It was nobody's business what you were doing. If you walked around like, oh, I'm straight, or I'm gay, people are like, we don't give a fuck. Who gives a fuck? That was kind of the attitude.
Well, everyone's just kind of like...
You didn't want people to know if you were straight or gay. You wanted them to not know.
You like to remain mysterious.
Yeah, it was kind of a mysterious thing. Yeah.
You could
better if they didn't know.
You could be up for anything.
Because being goth was kind of like a sexual orientation into its own. It was like its own gender.
Well, you didn't really want to like nail anything down because it's like you didn't know if like, hey, some shit might go down.
Anything might be possible. Depends on what's happening.
You don't want to cut off any possibilities.
You never can tell.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so we liked...
Keeping everything wide open.
We liked that element of the scene back in the 90s. the way
It's still
was.
kind of like that.
It's still kind of like that, but that's all old hat now. That was cutting edge back in the 90s.
Yeah. But like I said, we didn't worry about it. Even in the 80s, we didn't really worry
Yeah,
about it.
in the 80s, they didn't give a shit.
I mean, everybody else was worried about it for
Yeah.
sure because they were beating us up and stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But we didn't worry about it. So yeah, so how did we get off on this tangent? Oh, we're talking about chronic masturbation. Like I said, so I don't know when they say he was a chronic masturbator as, you know, something like indicative of, you know, yeah, he'd be a serial killer later on. I don't know how accurate that assessment is because, like I said, once, twice a day is not really that's not excessive. So I don't really know. Like I said, for somebody to really have for me to call somebody a chronic masturbator, like you have to be like literally not stop masturbating. You know what I mean? Like even if you're like, hey, you're at a work meeting or something like that and you just whip it out and start jerking it. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a chronic masturbator if you can't stop. Like if you're just doing it like once or twice a day, that's not, and you're in your own home or whatever, that's not chronic masturbation. But yeah, so I don't know. So right around this time too, like I said, he's about mid-teens around this stage. He also started drinking, so there's alcoholism also, which I kind of feel like certain types of mental illness, especially probably what he was suffering from, I kind of feel like a lot of people with those issues, some of them will like try to dull their emotions, stuff like that with alcohol, and I kind of feel like that's probably what he was doing. I think he was also kind of in a lot of pain from the head injuries and from various other things because he had a lot of health problems too, stemming from, you know, his parents having syphilis and untreated head injuries, blah blah. He also, they're not real sure what he was doing for money at this point because, like I said, he would get jobs and he would just wander off or whatever, but he was paying his rent, like he was paying his aunt and uncle to live there, and he was never coming up short on stuff, so they assumed that he was probably doing illegal shit like stealing or doing something like that, but they're not entirely sure what he was doing all this time. But he always seemed to have not a lot of money, but enough money to like pay his rent and all that other kind of stuff. And he was also a big fan of reading like true crime magazines and stuff. They said he spent a lot of money on those. So he was real into, I guess, kind of maybe like BTK, like was always buying those old school S&M, like true crime kind of magazines and stuff. Like he was always into that kind of shit. He was into that kind of stuff. Which, you know, that doesn't mean anything because I like true crime too, and I'm not a serial killer, obviously, that you know of. So, so yeah. So during this time, like I said, still having some problems. You know, obviously he's getting into alcoholism, which is not great. He talked to people that weren't there. He had a tendency to walk around on his hands, like he'd walk around like handstand type of thing. Like he did that a lot. He would kind of show off in the house by picking up stuff with his teeth, like heavy stuff with his teeth, like he was in a circus or something. And they said that they weren't really sure what he was out doing during the day, but a lot of times he would come back home and he'd be like all beat up, like he'd been fighting. So I don't know. I don't know what he was up to. Like I said, he was making money somehow. I'm assuming somehow shady, but they're not really entirely sure what. He did steal shit, so it was probably that. So at this point, he's, you know, a teenager, and he's kind of, you know, he's gotten bigger. Like, he's not a huge dude, but he was kind of, you know, kind of stocky and had real big hands and stuff. And he was pretty strong. So his aunt, who was raising him, at this point, she has 2 little kids of her own, her and her husband. And even though she loved her nephew a great deal and was always sympathetic towards him, she didn't really know what to do with him. Like, she couldn't discipline him, obviously, because he was a lot bigger than her. And so she kind of was afraid of him a little bit. So she was, I don't know. So I kind of feel like she wanted to confront him about like what it was that he was doing, but she didn't really want to because she was afraid something bad would happen and would maybe, you know, maybe it would put her
How old is he at this
kids
time?
in danger. He's like 16, 17, like right around
All right,
there.
so we're still in his grown up.
Yeah, he's still in his like growing up. Well, like he didn't live that long, so
Right.
you know what I mean. So there was that. So, so at one point, it's around 1915, and he decides he's gonna leave his aunt's house just because he decided he was gonna wander around, and he goes up to Northern California, like kind of just wandering around. And they said that that was another thing, and this might have been, again, a result of his head injury, where he would sometimes just, like, disappear for, like, weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And they didn't know where he was. And, like, he'd just wander back, you know what I mean? So, there was that. And he would make money by, you know, robbery, just doing little shit like that. Now, around this time, he decides he's going to break into, and I'm assuming that he had done this many times before and had gotten away with it, but this time he did not. He broke into a cabin which he thought, I think it was like a seasonal cabin, and he thought no one was in there. He broke in, but it turned out that while he was on his way out, the owner came home and caught him, like, and he was in there stealing stuff. So he managed to get away, like there were woods around there, and he ran into the woods, but a posse eventually like tracked him down and they arrested him. So he got convicted of burglary, and he was about, like I said, I think he was only like 17 at this point, like 16, 17. And they actually put him in San Quentin for 2 years. So, for burglary. So it seemed like nothing super notable happened while he was in prison. He did his time, and then he got out. Now, right around the time he got out was, 1917, 1918. So, the First World War.
First World War
was starting up. So he decided he was going to enlist in the army. And hoping to get sent overseas. So he joined the army under his... if it was a woman, you'd call it his maiden name, but his father's last name, which was Farrell. So he registered under Earl Farrell. But he wasn't in the army for very long. Like I said, this is that executive function thing again.
Yeah.
They put him on guard duty one night, and it was real cold out, and he just wandered off.
Yeah.
He was in there for like less than a month. He's just like, nah, fuck this.
Yeah, that guy, I'm done with this.
He went AWOL.
Yeah, his higher executive functions aren't working.
Yeah, he just wandered off. So there was that. So
he probably didn't mean to leave.
Maybe not.
You just kind of... I was like that for a few months. You forget. You know what I mean? You forget that
it might have been
that
that.
it's serious, that you got shit to do. You know what I mean? You just, man, I'm gonna go do that. And I'm gonna do this. And you just walk away.
And then you just walk away.
Yeah, you forgot.
That might have been his problem.
Yeah, no responsibilities or anything. And if you reminded him, like, hey, man, you're in the army, he'd be like, oh, yeah. And he'd probably go back.
Oh, yeah, I should probably go back to that.
He'd probably go back, yeah.
But
no, you're just following a train
anytime they tell him to do something and it's the slightest bit uncomfortable, he just wandered off.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Because you're like, well, why am I here?
Yeah, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm leaving. Bye.
Yeah.
He just like wandered off. So he did that.
He never recovered from his head injury.
No, it seems like they really didn't do their due diligence there. I'm gonna say.
They didn't have the technology to do anything.
No. So he next ends up in Salt Lake City, Utah. That was where he wandered off to. And when he got there, he enlisted in the military again, but in the Navy this time.
Yeah.
So they actually signed him back to San Francisco, where he was from, as a cook. He was in the Navy for, again, about a month. And then he just wandered off.
Yeah.
And, basically, they said they asked him to do, like, chores and, like, stuff around the kitchen, as you would a cook. And he's just like, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
He just left. He just left.
Didn't have the concentration for it.
No. Yeah. So he wasn't in there that long. He just didn't like to be told what to do, I guess. But like you said, head injury. So he was kind of wandering around San Francisco for a couple months. And then he decides he's going to try and join the military. Again, I'm not really sure why he was so adamant. Maybe, like you said, he was just, like, forgetting.
I think he was forgetting. Yeah.
So, because he tried to join again. This time as a medical corpsman. Now, when he...
It's funny that they don't remember him. I guess
well, it's different. I guess it's different branches, and this was like, pre-1920,
no
so I'm sure they didn't really have... If you went to a different state or a different city, I'm sure they probably didn't cross-check.
Yeah.
And he would go under different names, too. Yeah. Like, he did that a lot. So, everybody knows him as Earle Nelson, but that's not the name that he was born with. That's just kind of the name that everybody knows him under. So he joins again. And at this stage...
He joined the Army or the Navy?
It just says medical corpsman. I don't really know what that is.
That's usually the... Well, shit.
That could be anything.
That could be anything.
Right.
It could be in the Marines.
It might have been, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I thought I wrote it down, but I guess I didn't.
Because they call him corpsman.
Because they said that he joined, like, pretty much all of the branches of the military, over this 1 year.
Marine. Because you don't call them corpsmen in the Army.
Yeah.
They're called medics.
So this might have been Marines, yeah. Wow. So, while he's in there, I don't even think he was in there a month this time. And he left this time because he said that he had hemorrhoids and it was bothering him.
Yeah.
So,
what did they say to that?
Because his butt was burning.
They didn't look. Did they look and check see if he had hemorrhoids?
I don't know.
They probably didn't give a shit. Just let him
probably
go.
Not.
He probably wasn't worth a shit.
Okay, whatever, man.
He probably wasn't worth a shit.
Whatever. And then in 1918, he tried to go back into the Navy again. And the same kind of shit happened. Like, they would be like, okay, we'll go do this. And then he would just, like, start reading, like, or spewing Bible verses and talking about the coming apocalypse and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so they go, this motherfucker's crazy.
Yeah, and
wasn't there basic training in
you know what? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure.
I wonder what, maybe basic training started in World War II. I don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe this was basic training.
Maybe it was basic training.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But basically, they just said he would just not do anything you told him to do, and he was just going around talking about the end of the world and quoting Revelation and everything like that.
Yeah, his brain's fried.
Which, so he was only in there for a couple of weeks, and then they're like, all right, this motherfucker is not right, and they put him in a mental hospital. He's about 18 at this point. Napa State Mental Hospital is where they put him. So they put him in there in May of 1918.
They did the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, even back then.
Yeah.
And like I said, I kind of feel like, I wasn't alive back then, I don't know, but I kind of feel like I have the perception that you probably had to be really crazy
to go to a mental hospital.
Like before back, unless you were a woman.
Yeah.
If you were a woman, all you had to do was be like, hey, I don't really want kids, or hey, I might like to vote, or something like that, and then they'll put you in there. But it's like, if you were a dude, I feel like you could get away with a lot more shit.
Yeah.
And before they would put you in a mental hospital. So this guy was clearly exhibiting some alarming behavior.
I think a lot of women ended up in the mental institution because they wanted to get laid before they got married.
Well, yeah, that's
and
like I said, women
families.
doing like normal shit.
Yeah.
And then their families were like, oh no, we can't have that.
Yeah.
We can't have you acting like
unless you were
like
poor.
A dude would act.
The poor girls could get away with that. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah, because no one cared.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's just kind of fucking, yeah.
It's just middle class girls. Rich girls probably could get away with shit too, but middle class girls, now that was it. You couldn't do none of that shit.
So they put him in the mental hospital, and the psychologist who observed him when he first got there said that he didn't appear homicidal or violent or destructive, which, I mean, you know, I guess he hadn't done anything horrible at this stage. But they did say that when he first got there and they were interviewing him, they said that he clearly had some signs of paranoid delusions. They said that he hears music that's not there. He sees faces coming out of the walls. He thought that people were trying to poison him, which, like I said, that's very indicative of like schizophrenia, where people think that you think people are after you. And basically he said to them that if you put me back in jail, I'm going to slice my wrists open, like that kind of stuff. So they knew that there was something wrong with him. They didn't think he was violent at this point. They also noted that he had extreme headaches, which, like I said, not a surprise considering the head injury that he had earlier. They said even during the initial interview, like, he fainted a bunch of times and was like clearly very dizzy, like, a lot of times. So like I said, they didn't really treat that fucking head injury all that good. Now, when they asked him about it, like I said, he did say that he masturbated a lot when he was a teenager, but had not masturbated since he turned 18. I don't believe that, but whatever. He also said he was an alcoholic, but didn't drink anymore. So there was that. They did some blood tests on him. Found, like I said, syphilis and also gonorrhea. And they thought that he had probably got the gonorrhea at least, and maybe the syphilis too, like from sex workers from when he was a teenager. And he was very, very, and this was true of a lot of schizophrenics also, like has religious preoccupations. And also he was kind of a little bit of an escape artist. So he's in this mental hospital for, I believe like the whole term was like 18 months. And he escaped 2 times. And they said that he was just he tried to escape like all the time. Like the other inmates called him Houdini because he was always trying to get out. So he escaped a couple times and then they caught him and brought him back. The 3rd time he escaped, which was in 1919, they didn't even bother to fucking look for him. They're just like, you know what? Fuck him. He's fine. They didn't even look for him. They just let him go. They just said, yeah, he's probably... They wrote down in his records that he was improved. It's like, yep, he's cured. It's fine. They just didn't want to bother, I guess. So, after he left the 3rd time, the mental hospital, and they didn't look for him, he turned up back at his aunt's house, Lillian's house. And because she loved him, that was her nephew, and she took him back in, even though she was afraid of him. And she managed to find him a job. He got a job as a janitor at a hospital, like right near San Francisco. Now, interestingly, while he was working there, he met a woman who he wanted to marry. Now, this woman was named Mary Martin, and she was 58 years old. At this point, Earl was about 20, 21, something like that. So, clearly a woman much older. So, the dude is looking for a maternal figure or a grandmotherly figure, I feel, because a lot of his victims going forward were older women. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like that's maybe what he's going after. So he completely, totally fell in love with this woman. She was also, she worked in the hospital too. She was like worked in the housekeeping department.
More ice in it?
Yeah. And she was kind of shy, like, I guess, like he was, and maybe didn't get a lot of attention from men. So I guess like this young guy who was, I mean, he's not terrible looking. So I guess she just thought, oh, okay, this young, nice man is paying attention to me. You know what I mean? So he starts talking about marrying her, and she agrees, but she was a pretty devout Catholic, and I don't think she would have sex with him until they got married, which was another reason why he wanted to get married so quick. But she was like, yeah, we have to have the whole Catholic deal and everything like that, and he's just like, yeah, whatever, fine. He didn't really seem to care all that much. So he marries this woman who is, you know, like old enough to be his mom. Actually, probably like old enough to be his grandmother slightly. And so the thing about it is that I'm not really sure. He seemed nice enough at first, I guess. Like, she didn't see any red flags, as far as I can determine. But once they got married, it seemed like they got into this weird... Like I said, he seemed to have a weird mother or grandmother fetish. And so he seemed to, like, push her into the role of disapproving mother so he could be the son that was, like, bad and needed punishment. You know what I mean? It was that kind of shit. Like, it seemed like... I don't know if he was doing it on purpose.
He didn't have a mom, so...
Yeah, I mean, he never knew his mom. She died when he was a baby. And he was raised by his grandmother. So, so his wife, who... She was a good Catholic. She didn't believe in divorce. And I'm not actually sure if she'd been married before. She might have been, like, a spinster. So she just thought, oh, well, this is just the shit the shit you have to put up with, I guess. Like, when you get married, I guess she didn't know any different. But she found it a little exhausting, gonna say. And she was another one that noted that he would always change clothes. Like, he would leave the house in clean clothes, and then he'd come home in different clothes that were, like, all dirty and raggedy and stuff. And she just thought that was the damnedest thing. She said another thing that he would do is, like, if they weren't dirty or raggedy, they'd be really crazy. Like, he'd wear, like, these fucking crazy ass, like, not anything as crazy as, like, clown pants or anything like that, but she's, like, stuff that was, like, really not appropriate to be, like, wearing out in the street. Like, so he'd come out wearing like these weird ass clothes, like crazy hats and shit like that. She's like, what the fuck? Like, she didn't know what was going on. Like, or a sailor suit or some shit. Like, it'd just be random weird costumes. And she didn't get it. So, she also said he wouldn't take a bath. Still had the terrible table manners that he'd had when he was a kid. And just would not stop pestering her for sex. Like, every morning, every night, he was just at her, like, all the time. And if she didn't want to do it, then he would just make her feel bad, like, just by laying next to her and, like, jerking it. And then she'd be like, ew, like, gross, you know what I mean? Like that. And she'd get, like, really... I mean, she was, like, a Catholic, and she was kind of sheltered, it seemed like. So she was, like, really grossed out by this whole situation. So there was that.
That's another thing about head injuries sometimes, is that it'll have fucking kind of, like, more sexual aggression.
Yeah.
So, brain damage, man.
Yeah, this dude is very clearly brain damaged. I mean, not right.
Dane Bramage.
Big time. All right, I gotta pee. Do you talk about something? Gotta talk about something.
Kenny D's here. Haven't seen him in a while. He says that he remembers back when we only had 3,000 subs.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was doubtful of growth. We're at 16,000 now. Still seems like it's not very many people to me, though. The show's been going on, I think, 10 years. I would have thought that we'd have had like fucking 30,000, 40,000, something like that. But I don't know. I don't really understand how YouTube algorithms work. I think they kind of slow growth of channels. They don't want anything to go viral, or, you know, the way they have the algorithms worked out. I think they keep most creators down to more to cheaper levels, so they're not fucking giving out shit tons of money just to fucking one creator. You know, they don't want any more of those of fucking PewDiePie. Remember PewDiePie? I think he's retired now. That dude was making like a couple $100,000 a month on YouTube, all on the back of fucking 15-year-olds with their mom's credit cards. Talking about PewDiePie, how he went viral and was making like several $100,000 a month on YouTube just because he had millions of fucking 15-year-old users fucking using their mom's credit cards.
And then later be like,
yeah, so
what the fuck is this?
I think YouTube fucking prevents channels from really going viral. Doesn't really happen anymore.
I mean, I don't know. Like, the shit I watch is not viral material. So.
No. Well, most of the creators I watch have similar amount of subscribers to what we have.
Yeah. Now, I do follow some people, like, horror channels and stuff that are way bigger.
Yeah.
But not a lot.
Some of the news type channels that I listen to have hundreds of thousands or millions, but that's just because other people are watching.
Yeah. But yeah, so I can't imagine this poor woman. Like I said, I kind of feel like maybe I don't know what she looked like, to be honest. But you know, she's 58, and this dude that's a janitor of the place where she works at, and he's like young enough to be her son or almost her grandson, probably. I think he was like in his early 20s at this point. And like I said, he's not terrible looking. He's just kind of a regular looking dude. Like, he looks weird because we know what he did, but you wouldn't know that. And so, you know, maybe she was flattered by the attention, and then like it happens and they get married and all this other stuff, and she's like, oh, so this is how it's gonna be. Yeah. So it wasn't just the insatiable sex drive, like him jerking it in bed next to her all the time, like he couldn't stop himself, but he also started getting really super jealous. And I'm not just saying that it's like, hey, every time like she looked at another man or something like that. She literally could not talk to anybody, man, woman, child, anybody. Like, you talk to anybody, if she talked to a woman, she talked to her brother, she talked to anybody, and he would get really, really fucking pissed at her. Like, she wasn't allowed to talk to anybody, right? And he would start getting violent, but he wasn't initially. And here's the thing, I'm glad she got out when she did, because she lived, she was okay. But I kind of feel like if she had hung around and as time had gone on, I'm sure the violence probably would have been directed at her. Like, at first, he would get mad if she was talking to somebody else, but he would take it out on, like, stuff. Like, he would break things or, like, punch a wall or something like that. But he would never hit her, as far as I know. But I'm sure it probably would have progressed to that had she not gotten out. But she did. But that's, I mean, after a while. But that's crazy. So she knew that he was a nut from the get-go, and she didn't love it, I'm sure, but because she was very religious, she didn't believe in divorce, and she's like, oh, well, we just have to put up with it, you know what I mean? So it's that. So I feel like that there's that kind of thing. Now, after a while, it seems as though she kind of stayed married to him, but I feel like after a while of him maybe not getting what he wanted from her, because I think that he chose her specifically because she was reminded him of his grandmother, I think, is what I'm thinking. Because, like I said, he didn't know his mom. Like, she died when he was a baby. So I kind of feel like he got off on having sex with his grandmother. Maybe. It seems like. Because it seems like
I must have missed something.
I mean, he chose a woman for his wife that was much older than... I mean, she was an old lady. She was 58. But, I mean, she was much older than him. Like, he was only in his early 20s.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like he had some kind of weird,
like
displaced...
a granny pleasure. He had a granny fetish.
Like a weird, displaced sexual thing toward his grandmother. Maybe his grandmother was domineering. Because I kind of feel like a lot of serial killers have a thing where they either have actually domineering mothers or they perceive that their mothers are domineering because they don't like to be told what to do by a woman or something. So it's like, I feel like a lot of them lash out because of that. Because a lot of them do seem to choose victims that kind of look like their moms or kind of remind them of their moms. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of the case here. I mean, obviously this was not his mom, but it was like a mother figure. This is his grandmother. But, yeah, so I can't imagine what this poor woman fucking went through. Because she knew he was fucking crazy, like, pretty much immediately. But she did eventually leave. But,
he had a granny fetish.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, like I said, most of his victims were older. Not, like, old. There weren't, like, 100 or anything like that. But a lot of them were, 40s, 50s, 60s, like that.
Maybe he saw that as punching up.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems really weird.
Punch it up.
It seems really weird.
Either they're just available. You're reading into it.
Yeah,
because...
because...
Might have been targets of opportunity.
Well, I'm thinking that... I think it was kind of both. I think he just took what he could get.
Yeah.
But I think he preferred older women.
Yeah.
But he would take a younger one if that's all that was available.
Well, they're probably easier to get at.
Yeah. And I saw, like, a woman that was kind of like a criminal psychologist or something. She was kind of talking about him.
Yeah.
And she kind of said the same thing. She's like, I think his preferred victim was an older woman, but maybe it was kind of like an opportunity thing. Like, they were easier to...
Yeah, well, a young pretty girl, she's going to be kind of like under lock and key, and her guard's going to be up, and she's not going to be running around and putting herself out there in public to where, just any old person could see her, especially back in that era, you know what I mean? But, middle-aged women, they walk around fearless, I mean, fucking... They don't perceive themselves as being targets of this kind of crime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I guess so.
I think they, they get to a certain age and they're like, I'm invisible now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women just become invisible.
Well, they do.
So, but they weren't invisible to him. He just, any woman he saw, probably, if he was in the right mindset and the opportunity was there, he'd probably move on them.
He would probably take it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because he did...
And statistically, it's going to be a middle-aged woman.
All of the crimes that he committed, like, happened in a relatively short period of time, like a 2-year span.
It just sounds like opportunity and statistics.
Yeah.
Statistically, there's a lot of middle-aged women running around.
But I'm just saying, just because of the woman that he chose to marry,
yeah,
being so much older than him, and somebody that was kind of like matronly, I think he kind of got off on that a little bit.
Well, that may have also been a thing of opportunity. Younger ones probably wanted nothing to do with him.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe she was just around.
Yeah, she was
and
around.
receptive.
Around and available. Yeah.
So maybe it was that. But so all of that was going on, and as I mentioned, he had a problem with recurring migraines, which, like I said, not surprising because of all the head injuries he had. And actually, while he was at work, he had a migraine attack, and he fell off a ladder and fell on his head on the ground again. So this is another head injury. Like, it knocked him out. Now, they took him to the hospital, obviously, but he checked himself out of the hospital after only 2 days, and his head was still all bandaged. So obviously that didn't heal properly either. So this is head injury number 2, major head injury number 2.
Yeah.
Aside from all the other shit.
He's just a combination of a bunch of fucking problems.
Yeah.
He's like a natural disaster.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So obviously, after he fell off a ladder and bonked his head again, his delusions and shit like that started getting way worse. Like, he started seeing things, hearing voices, like, even more than he had before. As happens in a lot of these cases, they were usually, like, religious, because that seemed like a particular proclivity of his. He started getting even worse toward his wife, thinking that she was doing all this stuff. Like, I don't know if you were in here when I said, but he was jealous of every single person she talked to. Like, even if it was a woman or her brother or whatever. He didn't want her talking to anybody, and he would get, like, he'd start throwing shit.
Weird.
So he started getting, like, worse and worse. And at this point, his wife, Mary, was just kind of like, yeah, I think I might need to get the fuck out of here, like, because this is getting dangerous. So he left. They were living in Palo Alto at the time. And they both still worked at the same hospital. And he's like, he wanted to move, and she's like, well, yeah, I'm not going with you. You just go. So he did leave, but then, like, the next day he came back, and he was, like, begging her to take him back, right? But she's like, nah. Which, that was the smart thing to do. She's like, nah, bro. And so he did leave. So thankfully he did not do anything to her, but...
He was connected to her, he couldn't.
It could have been... I kind of feel like he probably would have done something to her eventually.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe her leaving him, or basically saying, yeah, I don't want any part of this anymore, might have been a trigger for shit that followed.
Okay.
I kind of feel like. Like her not wanting anything to do with him anymore. Because not too long after this, he started his little murder spree. He hadn't killed anyone up to now that they know of. So the first thing he tried to do, this first victim, he didn't succeed in killing them, but this was obviously his first attempt, right? So what he did, he shows up, this was in 1921, and he goes to a house, and he pretends to be a plumber. Like, he says, hey, the kid that answered the door, like, it was a 24-year-old guy, and his younger sister, I think she was 12, and then their parents, but I think their parents were out. And so he shows up at this house and says, hey, I'm the plumber, and your parents called me, and I need to fix some shit or whatever. And so the kid, the son, I think his name is Charles, and he's just like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, he didn't know, you know what I mean?
Right.
So he just let the dude in. So Earl comes in, and he goes down to the basement.
He must have had tools.
I don't know if he had tools or... I don't know. Maybe he did. He might have thought that far ahead. But he goes down to the basement. And down in the basement was a little 12-year-old girl named Mary Summers. She was down there, like, playing with dolls or whatever. And he just straight up attacked her. Like, he's going to try and rape her.
All right.
She's 12. Mary, as you would, started screaming her fucking head off.
Yeah.
Which good for her. So obviously her older brother, who's 24, he's come down like, what the fuck is going on? Sees this dude, like, trying to mac on his fucking sister, like, attack his little sister, and starts beating the fuck out of the dude.
Oh, yeah.
As you would.
He didn't think that through, I guess. That motherfucker's crazy.
Yeah, he's just crazy.
He's fucking crazy.
He's crazy. So, so he manages to get out of the house, although the 24-year-old Charles, he chased him and started beating on him.
Yeah.
So they get in a big fight, like, in the street. And, you know, they both come to, like, you know, Charles, he's 24, he's young, they're about the same age, I guess. I don't know how big Charles was. But, Earl was no slouch. He was, like, you know, pretty, so they got in, like, a pretty bad fight. There are actually some photos of Earl when he got arrested after this fight.
Yeah.
And he looks pretty fucked up. So,
Yeah.
so it looked like the dude, like, kind of beat the crap out of him.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, well deserved. But yeah, because he got away for a little while, but then like they did like actually find him a couple hours later. So there's that. Now, so they take him to jail, and the first night that he's in jail, he, with his bare hands, his fingers, he plucked out all of his eyebrow hairs. So, for no reason. And also he started saying that faces were coming out of the wall at him. So there's that. So after they have him in jail, this eyebrow plucking motherfucker, they call his wife, because they're still married at this point, and she doesn't live with him anymore, but, you know, they called her. And she still kind of loved him and felt bad for him, I guess, but stop feeling bad for people like this, honestly. Don't feel bad for them. I mean, he can't help it. He's crazy. But you know what I mean? You're going to get yourself fucking killed.
That's who you said that he plucked all his eyebrows out?
Yeah.
Okay.
With his hand, like, he just, when they put him in jail, he's like, bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing, and they're just like,
Nerves got to him.
Okay, buddy. So they call his wife, and she comes there, and they obviously knew something was wrong. They put him in a straitjacket and fucking, he was yelling about faces coming out of the wall at him and shit like that. Now, Mary, I guess, she knew he was kind of a nut, but she didn't know the extent. She didn't know that he had been in a mental hospital before, for example. She didn't know about all this stuff that had gone on. So they told her at this point. They're like, yeah, he's been in the hospital before. He was in there for 18 months, and, you know, he was kicked out of the military for this, that, and the other thing. And all this other stuff. So at this point, they're like, okay, well, we're just going to keep him in a mental hospital. You know, they're going to fucking essentially like Baker Act him. You know what I mean? Yeah. They didn't call it that back then, but that's what they call it now. Or they're going to put you in there like involuntarily because he shouldn't be running around. So they keep him in there for like a month, and then they take him in front of a judge to see if he can like stand trial. You know what I mean? If he's competent.
This is for the girl?
Yeah, for attacking the girl, yeah. And so they had a bunch of psychiatrists come in and assess him, and they said that he was, these were some of the words they used: apathetic, eccentric, noisy, which I thought was kind of funny, destructive.
Okay.
I was like, you're noisy too.
Yeah.
Incendiary.
Noisy is a military, is a mental disorder?
I guess.
And incendiary?
Yeah.
Okay.
They said that, but a couple of the psychiatrists did say that he was violent and dangerous, and that he would probably do something to his wife and maybe to himself if he was let out. So they're like, basically, he needs to be committed, like, because they can't let him run around. So they took him back to the Napa State Hospital, which is where he had been before, and where he had escaped from 3 times. Because remember, the 3rd time he escaped, they just said fuck it and they just let him run loose because they were sick of looking for his stupid ass.
Huh.
So but they put him back in there. So he's in there for the 2nd time at this point. And this time, the psychiatrist diagnoses him with as a constitutional psychopath with outbreaks of psychosis. Probably pretty accurate. And they also called what he had, I love this, nomadic dementia, meaning he wanted to fucking escape all the time. That's what they call it.
They're making shit
nomadic
up.
dementia.
And I think they still make shit up.
I mean, that's pretty funny. That's a funny way of putting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think he's got multiple head injuries and syphilis. And
Well,
he's also
yeah.
got fucking a lot of he's got a lot of mental problems on top of all that.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of shit happening.
Big time. So yeah, and because they knew about his, I mean, he'd been there before, and they knew about his proclivity to, like, you know, try to jump the wall and everything. So it's like they'd kind of let him go outside, but they kept restraints on him and kind of kept him on a leash, you know what I mean? They wouldn't, like, just let him run around by himself. So they kind of try to keep him inside. Now, at this point, he did seem to improve a little bit after they gave him anti-syphilis medication.
Yeah, so they knew
Salvarsan. Yeah,
They knew he had
they'd
syphilis.
done blood tests and stuff, so they knew that he had STDs. So he did get a little bit better. Like, they said that he could have a normal conversation. He could do, like, tasks without wandering off.
Yeah.
So he seemed like he was getting a little bit better. He did still have the weird religious mania, like, and all that kind of stuff. But some of the stuff seemed a little bit better. They said he did kind of half-assedly try to escape a couple times, but not, like, seriously. And after a while, they were just kind of letting him walk. They said, okay, maybe he's going to be okay. However, he was in there for about a year and a half. And then he started seemingly going downhill again. Like, he seemingly got real depressed, and he would get real agitated. And he was just, like, walking around, like, real restless all the time. You know what I mean? And he wouldn't take his medication anymore. And basically all but told the doctors, it's like, hey, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, so they thought he was going to escape again. So in 1923, November, he escaped from Napa again. This is not a high security prison, you guys. He escaped again. And he turns up at his Aunt Lillian's house in the middle of the night. And Lily, he scared the crap out of her. And she loved him. She knew he was crazy, but she felt bad for him. She's like, this motherfucker turns up at her house, presses his face against the window. It's the middle of the night. It's like 3 in the morning. She said he had this crazy fucking hat on, and he's like pressed the face against the glass like that, like looking like a fucking crazy person. You know what I mean? And she's like, we just about shit a brick. And she said his eyes were like black. She said he just looked like a fucking nut. And she was scared, but she basically said, okay, well, I'm scared of you. I don't really want you in here, but here's some clothes. Gave him some of her husband's clothes, and said, just get the fuck out of here. Just run away. I'm not gonna tell on you or nothing. So he took off. However, after he was gone, she called the cops and said, hey, he was just here, so you might want to do something about that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, she loved him, but she didn't want him running around loose. You know what I mean? Like, understandably so. So he was on the loose for a couple days. And then they found him just wandering around San Francisco, and they picked him back up. So they put him back in the mental hospital for another 16 months. And they don't really have any records from this time period, so either he didn't do anything real egregious, or he didn't make any escape attempts or anything like that. But they did let him out later on. And the only note at his on his release papers were discharged as improved. I'm like, considering where he was at prior to that, I'm like, improved, that's not really saying much of anything. You know what I mean? Improved from what? Like a total psychopath to like a slightly less total psychopath? Not great. So,
it's not like they were trying to cover their ass.
But yeah, I think they were. I think they were just sick of dealing with him. They're like, look, he's been in here for like a few years at this point, and we just don't know what to do with this motherfucker. Yeah. So it's like, okay, fine. He's a little bit better.
The prisons,
get the fuck out.
They're thinking the prison system will fucking take care of his ass. They don't think they realize he was going to kill a bunch of people.
Yeah. Well, he did. Because not too long after he was let out of the mental hospital, the whole killing spree started.
Yeah.
The first thing he did, he got out, and then he managed to... He went to his wife, Mary. They were still married. Like, I don't think they ever officially divorced. And got her to take him back. But it was only like a couple weeks, and she's like, nah, bro. Yeah. Like, you're still fucking crazy. Get the fuck out of here. So, he basically just, like, wandered off anyway. And then, this was when he started killing people. So, the first person he killed was a 62-year-old widow named Clara Newman. Now, she had a whole bunch of boarding houses in San Francisco, which this is a very common thread with a lot of his victims were, women that owned boarding houses.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's looking for a place to live. So takes him to a boarding house, and he realizes he could kill a woman and fucking then move on to the next one. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, and I kind of think, well, it's somebody you can have access to women without anybody being suspicious. Yeah, I think was the
he stumbled onto that. There. He stumbled onto that.
Yeah,
he needed a house, and he could show up to these places and kill somebody.
Yeah, because he did that a lot.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that he did that they know of. Because, a lot of times, like I said, a lot of people were transients. They were moving around for work and stuff. And so there'd be all these boarding houses, and they'd have little for rent signs in their windows. So he would look for that. And then, if there was a woman that ran the boarding house, then he would usually, kill them. And that's what he did in this situation.
Way to get in the house.
Yeah. And he was, like I said, he seemed to be able to act normal long enough for nobody to suspect it.
Yeah.
That he was a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
You know? Because nobody thought that much about it. Like, when he first came there, they all thought he was a nice dude, you know what I mean? So he was able to act normal for, like, short periods of time. So he sees this sign in the window of Clara Newman's boarding house, and he wants a room. And he has a nice suit on. Like I said, he's not stupid. So I kind of feel like he's crazy, but he can't be that crazy. Because he didn't show up there looking like a bum trying to get shit. He had a nice suit on. He's like holding a Bible.
Yeah.
Talking about how Christian he is and stuff like that. So he was trying to put on a facade.
Yeah.
So he was smart enough to do that. He was sane enough to do that. I think that was one of the things that contributed to eventually when he got caught, them saying, well, you couldn't have been that crazy because you knew enough to act normal to get access to a victim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't acting super crazy then. So, yeah. So he has a nice suit on, carrying a Bible. He's got a nice hat on and everything like that. And they think that he probably used false names every time. They don't know what name he used in this situation. Sometimes they do. But, he would always use false names. You could just do that back then because nobody fucking checked. You know what I mean? So he's just like, yeah, I just saw the sign in the window and, you know, I want to rent a room. So the thing about it, so Clara, he thought that she was home by herself. But she had a nephew who also lived there with his wife and daughter in another one of, in a room that she was renting. Now, the wife and the daughter were not there. They'd, like, gone shopping into the movies and stuff. But the nephew, the husband, he was still there. But he didn't really see exactly what happened. But what happened was, he was going up to... he was kind of cold in his apartment, so he was going to go and complain about the furnace. And his name was Merton, actually. And so, when he was going down to the basement to, like, see about the furnace... he passed by the kitchen, and he thought that his aunt, who owned the boarding house, was in there because there was like sausages in a pan, and it was like frying on the thing. And he's like, oh, she must have just like stepped away for a second, like to answer the phone or some shit. But he didn't think about it anymore. And then it's like he saw a dude who turned out to be Earl, and he sees this guy with his hat over his eyes and his coat collar up. And he was walking out the front door. And Merton's like, hey, man, like, what's up? Like, can I help you with something? And the guy's like, he's like, oh, tell the landlady I'll come back in an hour. I'm going to rent the room.
Yeah.
But see, what Merton didn't know was that his aunt was already dead.
Right.
At this point. Like, he'd already killed her and he was, like, walking out. But he saw him. He didn't get a great look at him. He said, like, the only impression that he had was he was a white dude, but he was kind of swarthy. Like I said, he had kind of a darker complexion, which
like
is
Italian.
Yeah, like, they started calling him the Dark Strangler.
Yeah.
Like, after a couple of these. But yeah, he said he didn't get a great look at him. But, and he wasn't paying that much attention because he didn't know his aunt was dead at this point.
Right. He was not alert.
Right. So yeah, he said, yeah, tell her I'll be back in an hour. And then he just left. And so Merton kind of looked after him, and he didn't see anything. He's just like, okay, whatever. And so then he goes and fucks around with the furnace, and then goes back to his room. And then a couple hours later, he goes back down to the kitchen and sees that the pan is still on the thing, and the sausage are still in there, and it's like, obviously nobody's cooking anything now. He's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, where's my aunt at? Like, where's Clara? And so he goes and asks, like, the other residents, like, hey, have you seen her? But nobody had seen her. So then they start searching the house, and they found her dead body. Now, in the newspapers of the time, there were a couple of differing accounts of where they found her body at. One of the accounts, I don't think this is the true one, but they said she was propped up on the toilet with her dress pulled up. I don't think that was the case. I think...
That sounds like something a serial killer would do.
Most of the sources said, now, her dress was pulled up.
Right.
But, because almost all of the victims were found, like, nude, either completely nude or nude from the waist down. Like, he pushed their dresses up.
Yeah.
They, I feel like it's more likely that they found her in an attic apartment which was vacant, and, her clothes have been all pushed up around her waist.
Okay.
And she looked like she'd been roughed up. I mean, obviously, they didn't report this in the paper at the time, but she had been raped after she was dead. So,
yeah, that's easier.
Necrophile.
It's easier.
Yeah.
They're not fighting.
Yeah.
And they're not watching you.
Yeah. What, and one
so
thing,
you don't have any performance anxiety.
And one thing that somebody said was that, because I kind of feel like some sexual serial killers are sadistic. They enjoy the pain that they cause. They enjoy the fear that they cause. This guy, I kind of feel like he just wanted to rape the corpse.
He wanted to get off.
Because it seemed like he didn't... I'm not saying this makes it better. He didn't torture them, it seems like. He usually strangled them, usually with his bare hands, sometimes with other things, like with an electrical cord or a towel or something like that, but he usually used his bare hands. But he didn't beat them up, he didn't stab them, he didn't do anything like that. He usually just strangled them, and then he raped them, and just kind of left them like that. So I kind of feel like it was more for him about the raping of the dead body, rather than getting off on torturing a living person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't think... I think raping a dead body concept, I think, is kind of reading too much into it, though. It's probably more along the lines of what Gary Ridgway would say when he would do that. You say, well, it was free.
Because it was free.
It was free. So you kill her, she's not there anymore. Now you can just do whatever you want. It's free. She's not fighting.
Yeah.
That's probably all it is. And the idea that it's a dead body probably doesn't even really enter the damn mind of these dudes.
Because she's still fresh.
She's still fresh. She's still warm. It's like a living person. So, like she's asleep, you know.
Yeah, it's not like sitting like that Gary Ridgway crap where you go back like
rotten.
after they were rotten.
Yeah,
and Ted Bundy did that too.
Yeah.
Even when it was just like a rotten head and stuff.
Yeah.
This guy seemed
those guys were getting off on the fact that it was desecrated.
That it was, This guy, like I said, I kind of feel like... Because he would just kill them and rape them and just leave.
It was a path of least resistance, I think, is what he's doing. He doesn't want to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
He just wants to fucking knock them out. They die. You knock them out through asphyxiation or strangulation.
Yeah, strangulation.
Then they die. And you go, okay, now I'm going to have fun. And he goes through it, and he gets his rocks off, and then he leaves.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really probably think of it as necrophilia.
I imagine he probably didn't.
Yeah.
Because you're like, look, she was just alive.
Like just like a few minutes ago. Yeah, she's still alive, maybe.
So it still counts.
Yeah.
I do kind of feel like that's probably what he was thinking. He probably didn't think of it as that way.
I don't think he thought it was a necrophilia.
Maybe not.
That's a higher function thinking.
Yeah, I guess so. Phantom said he didn't want to deal with all that screaming. Yeah,
didn't want to deal with that talking. Didn't want to deal with that talking and looking at him. Because then, if there's somebody there, then you got to perform.
Yeah.
And, he might get performance anxiety. He can't rock up. Okay? If she's not there, now the pressure's off.
Pressure's off.
So now it's more like masturbation.
Yeah. And he supposedly did a lot of that. So.
Yeah.
But now it's like I said, just get a sex doll. They didn't have good sex dolls.
They didn't have back then.
So you had to make your own.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Although I don't think, as cute as the sex dolls can be now, I don't think that's fucking would have entered his mind either.
Probably not.
It was more like the fact that it's a person.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if she's just freshly dead. It's still a person in his mind.
Yeah. That's fucked up. But yeah. So that was his first one that they know of. And then it was only about a couple weeks later. I mean, like I said, all of his murder, and he did a lot. They know that he did at least 22, but maybe more, because there were a lot of other crimes that happened like in there that they couldn't pin on him, but it sounded like him. But they all happened like in a pretty brief, like within a 2-year time span. So he was doing, I think the average was like one a month, but some of them were like bunched up more than the others. Like sometimes he'd do a bunch like in a week, and then he wouldn't do any for a month, and then like there'd be a bunch more, you know what I mean? So it was like that, but it was like a pretty short term kind of thing. So it's about 2 weeks later. The second woman, this was in San Jose, and it was almost the same thing. She was a rooming house manager. Now she was a married woman. And she was old. I'm not sure exactly how old she was, but she was older, 50s, 60s. Her name was Laura Beal. And she was married to a real estate agent. And he came home and found his wife gone. And they thought that was odd because, I mean, she ran the boarding house. She was always there, you know what I mean? So all of the tenants start searching the house, and they found her body, again, nude from the waist down in a vacant apartment. She had been strangled with, she had like a silk dress on that had like a belt, and he had taken the belt off of that and strangled her with it, and had tightened the belt so tightly around her throat that it had broken the skin. She had also been raped after she was dead. Now, at this point, they didn't use the serial killer terminology. That didn't come into common usage until probably the 1970s. But they knew that this was obviously the same dude. You know what I mean? But they didn't really have that many leads. I mean, Merton, the first victim's nephew, had seen the guy, but didn't have a great description of him. It's like, I didn't really get that good of a look at him. It's like he was kind of sallow looking, kind of swarthy looking white dude. And that's about it. But as soon as these two murders happened, they pretty much immediately started calling him the Dark Strangler, you know what I mean, in the papers. But then, like, a month went by, and nothing happened. So, like, they didn't really have any leads in the investigation. There were no other murders, nothing like that. So the cops are thinking, well, maybe the dude left, you know what I mean? They don't know what's going on. And everybody just kind of stopped thinking about it. But then, about the end of March 1928, there was another victim. And this woman was also a widow. Her name was Lillian St. Mary. And she had a grown son who lived at home also, and had been, you know, taking in tenants because she didn't have a lot of money, so she was trying to raise money. So she was renting out some rooms, you know what I mean? So Earl shows up at her house, and she didn't think anything of it. She thought he seemed like a really nice dude. He was a Christian, blah, blah. And he told her that he was going to get married, and he was looking for an inexpensive room so he could save up some money because he was getting married soon. And so she's like, okay, well, I have this big room like up on the second floor. And she takes him up there to show him it. And basically, as soon as she went up there saying like, hey, here's the room, he put his hands around her neck and started throttling her. So yeah, nobody even heard anything. And the person that found her was one of the other tenants. Like, he was going up, because the room that she was showing was on the second floor, and he was going up to the third floor. And he saw that the vacant apartment door was open and could see her feet, like, laying there. So he went in there, and she was obviously dead. You know what I mean? She was actually on the bed, and she was, like, they said her eyes were, like, all bugging out. And her dress was, like, pushed up around her waist, and her legs were all splayed out. So obviously they knew something really bad had happened. She had been strangled by hand, and it seemed like, I don't know if she was fighting more than the others, but they said that what they could tell was that he had sat on her chest. So I don't know if she was, like, really struggling or something like that, but they said that he had just put his full weight on her, like, while he was strangling her, for that too. And then he also raped her after she was dead, and then he had taken off her, because I think she was on her way out, so she had her hat and her overcoat on, and they said that he took her hat and, like, placed it very neatly, like, next to her head, and then folded up her overcoat and, like, put it under her feet, which, okay, or put it, like, under where her feet would be or whatever. So there was that. And like I said, there were other tenants who were, like, living in the building at the time, but they didn't hear anything. So he must have just, like, snuck up behind her and, like, put his hand over her mouth and stuff like that, because she didn't scream or nothing. So obviously, like I said, the cops know that this is the same dude again. They did have some witness statements for, like, a guy that was a conductor, like, on a streetcar, had seen a dude kind of fitting that description. He was kind of acting like a weirdo, like, around the boarding house. And they, you know, so they started, like, trying to get tips on, like, this Dark Strangler kind of fucking person. And basically the cops were saying, as they would, it's like, hey, if you're a woman and you rent out rooms, like, if you own a boarding house, then be on the lookout for this guy, or, like, don't let dudes in, like, that you don't know, and all this other kind of stuff, because this dude's on the loose, you know what I mean? But the cops were trying to assure everybody, like, we'll catch him. It's fine. You know what I mean? It's like, he has a very particular MO. But at this point, it seems like he moved somewhere else. Like, he went to Santa Barbara. So basically he went, I don't really know, because I think like for a couple of months there weren't any crimes like that. And then he turns up in Santa Barbara. And this victim was named Ollie Russell, Mrs. Ollie Russell. And she was 53, I believe. And she had a boarding house in Santa Barbara, and she ran it with her husband. And they had a boarder, his name was William Franey, and he actually he worked at night, so he, was sleeping during the day, and he lived on the top floor. And this is kind of funny. I mean, it's not funny, it's horrifying, but it's still kind of funny. He woke up, this is the middle of the day, like I said, because he worked at night, because he heard, like, all of this banging against his wall. And he's like, what the fuck is all that banging? From the next door room. So he goes to, there was a door in between his room and the room where the banging was coming from. And there was a keyhole. So, like you do, he bends down and looks in the keyhole. And he sees a dude with his pants down banging a woman. And the sound he's hearing is the headboard hitting the wall. And as he's because he's like, oh shit, I shouldn't be looking this. But you know what? I'm going to look anyway. Because he's a dude. What's he going to do? So he keeps looking. And then he's like, man, that lady that he's fucking looks like my landlady. Yeah. He's like, but she wouldn't, I mean, she's married and she's not really the type that would fuck around her husband. And it's like, she doesn't really seem like the type of person that would do that. So he thought it was a little bit weird. He couldn't quite tell because her face was kind of turned away, but she kind of looked familiar. So he thought it was like really strange. So he kind of watches the whole thing happen.
She was already dead by this point anyway.
Yeah. But he didn't know that.
Yeah.
He couldn't tell. He's just looking through the keyhole. And so he sees the dude. The dude gets his rocks off and then puts his clothes back on and then puts his hat on and then leaves the room. And so then he keeps looking and he's like, that man, the woman is not moving. It's like, that's really weird. Like, she didn't get up or she didn't get dressed or nothing. She was just laying there. And so
he went back to the keyhole.
He just kept looking because he thought it was weird.
So the dude leaves.
Yeah.
He sees him walk away. And he goes back there and looked into the keyhole again.
Yeah. Well, he was just looking through the keyhole the whole time, I think.
Yeah, but the guy had to leave, though.
Yeah.
Or did he leave through another door?
He left through another door.
Okay.
Like I said, this was a door between his room. And this guy Earl went out the door into the hallway.
Yeah.
It had two doors.
He couldn't have saved her. She was already dead.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, he didn't know that, but he thought it was consensual at first because he was, like, embarrassed. And then he's like, well, wait, I don't know. That seems really weird. So he went out to find another tenant, and he's like, he told him what he saw. And it's like, that's weird, right? He's like, we should report that. So when the woman's husband gets home, they go up to the room, and obviously she's all fucked up. She's dead.
Yeah.
And she was strangled with some cord. Again, he had pulled it so tight that it broke the skin, like, on her throat.
Gave her a bad rash.
Yeah, and there was, like, blood on the door and shit like that. So obviously it had blood on his hands, like, when he left the room. And I think this was the first case where they actually did report that the victim had been raped after death. All of the victims had been, but I don't think they reported it in the media up until this case. And this was in Santa Barbara. So there was that. Then there was another one in August 1926.
Where's he living during all this time?
At these boarding houses. Well, he's kind of staying there, and then they're not really sure. Like, he's just kind of wandering around.
Okay.
So I'm not really if he's sure.
Some of them he might be staying at for a while, and then he goes to another one.
Yeah.
To kill somebody.
Yeah. Or he's sleeping on a bench. Who fucking knows? I don't know. So August 1926, there was another one. A guy named Stephen Nisbet comes home from work, and his wife, who was 50 years old, Mary, is missing. And again, it seems a little weird because it seems like she was getting ready to make dinner, like all the stuff was out, and then like she just disappeared, like, and wandered off, and he thought that was really strange. And her purse and all her shit was still there. So he's like, okay, well, that's a little sus. So he kind of waited for her a little while, but she didn't come back home, obviously. And so then he gets all the neighbors and tenants and stuff like that to look for her. So they kind of, I think they did know about the boarding house strangler guy, like, because this is a different city, but you know they still read the papers. It wasn't that far away, so I think they were getting a little bit suspicious about it. So they started looking around and they found her body on the second floor. It was actually crammed into the bathroom. He had actually suffocated her with a dish towel. And she had actually been, I'm not entirely sure why, but he seemed to have like beat her up more than the other ones. Like,
she fought harder.
It maybe so. Like,
Yeah.
it looked like he slammed her head onto the bathroom floor because a bunch of her teeth were knocked out. Like her face was all fucked
It could
up.
have been that she fell.
Maybe, but they said
she
it
goes
looked
limp.
like, well, they said there was blood on like the sink and everything like that, so it looked like he was banging her head on the shit. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Maybe. Because he's probably trying to keep her intact so she looks good. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
He probably started strangling her, and she lost consciousness and fucking fell because she becomes dead weight. He
Yeah.
probably wasn't strong enough to hold her up. Busts her teeth out. He's like, fuck. And then she regains consciousness and gets up, starts fighting again.
Right.
So it could have been shit like that.
Yeah, it might have been.
It's going to be something, yeah. It's going to be something like that, probably.
Yeah.
It's not so easy just to, do what he's doing. If the person's fighting.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
whole ass other person.
Right.
They're not just gonna like roll
Yeah.
over for you.
Some
you know?
do, evidently.
Some do, but I imagine most of them.
Man, I saw a video of those damn Swedish girls got beheaded by those ISIS guys who they gave them food and actually the video only showed one of them. Dude reaches down. The other one's got the cell phone. Dude reaches down. She's on her fucking stomach, face down, in her panties. And dude takes a knife and starts cutting the back of her neck, and she goes, "Ow!" And he fucking fights. She fights a little bit, rolls her over, and slits her fucking throat, cuts her head off, beheads her. And it only took a few seconds, and she only fought for a few seconds.
Well, she might have like dissociated.
Well, what happened is fucking her blood pressure starts to decline.
Well, yeah,
so
that
she
too.
fought. The arms did this for a little bit, but then it just.
Yeah, I mean.
But it hurt. She went, "Ow!" And then he rolled her over, where he could get to the front, and he cut through the front. And as soon as he went through the front, blood pressure in the brain fucking plummeted.
Yeah, you can't
Blood went
really
everywhere.
react to anything.
Yes,
anymore.
and I think she was unconscious.
Yeah.
Then he cut the head off. But she didn't fucking really give a fight. She laid there, and she knew that. I think that her girlfriend had just been beheaded next to her. She just said, some people. She's just Swedish girls, They're,
Well, why does this not anything to do with?
they're not
anything
from a real
Swedish?
tough environment.
Well,
know what
I'm
I mean?
just saying that it's like
And-
you might dissociate. You're like, because it seems so surreal, you might just be like, I'm not. This isn't even happening. You know what I mean? I kind of
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
not
that.
my reaction. My reaction
Well,
is
no,
to
but I
fucking
mean,
run, fight or
some
flight.
yeah, but some people might think that it's like this isn't really happening.
Right. Well, okay. Well, that's what's happening here.
You
You
know?
said that woman was bug-eyed. It's probably what it was. Like, what? This dude fucking jumped on her instantly and started strangling her. She probably didn't fight
Well,
at
not
all.
this one, but the
other
last one.
That's what I'm saying. The other one.
Well, they think that because nobody. I mean, people were home, but nobody heard anything.
Yes.
She didn't scream or struggle or anything like that. So he must just snuck
He
up behind
got
her.
her fast.
Right.
And she was surprised. Because
Yeah.
she was like, "What crazy motherfucker does this?" Well, you only have a few seconds, and she lost consciousness with her
Yeah, I'm
eyes
sure that's
bugged
probably
out.
what happened.
Yeah, she probably know it hit
Because,
her.
like
really.
I said, he had big fucking hands, and he probably just
Yeah.
like grabbed her around the throat and just
Yeah.
started throttling her, and she didn't have time to react, probably.
But that little fucking 20-something-year-old Swedish girl, she had plenty of time. But she was just frozen in terror, I guess. She did what she was told. She was laying face down on the ground.
Well, yeah, some people do that. That's like,
Fucking-
and I
I'd
think
be
a,
fucking.
I think a lot of times you don't know how you're going to react until you're in that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I've been in a lot of fights. I know how I react. You know what I mean? Fucking, if I saw somebody just got beheaded and I'm not just gonna lay there. I'm gonna fucking, you're gonna have to fight me, man. I'm gonna fucking run it, jump out windows or whatever. But the thing is, the dudes that did it were little 150-pound fucking weaklings that had tore through them like fucking paper. But you're dealing with a girl that probably can't even bench press 50 pounds. Fucking, It's a fucking shame, man.
Way to victim blame, Tom.
Now, it's not victim blaming, it's just fucking. They were in Morocco, fucking. And they knew ISIS was there, fucking crazy. Chicks fucking. This was a few years back. Traveling alone in Morocco, fucking camping alone. Ran into the wrong dudes.
Side quest here, gotta go. She said, all right, I'm drunk and I've eaten way too much pizza. Time for me to call it a night.
Oh,
I'll finish watching
pizza.
in the morning.
You need pizza side quest.
Have a great night, everyone.
I made pizza the other day, man. That shit was good.
Have a great night.
Yep.
Papa says, most people have interacted with a serial killer at some point in their life. You just didn't know it. Oh, I'm sure. I think about that a lot, actually. Because I watch a lot of true crime. And it might not even be a serial killer, but it might for sure be somebody that, like, murdered somebody. You know what I mean? And just didn't get caught.
If I did one, I know who it is. If I interacted one. It'd be that fucking crazy young kid who constantly fucking talks to me like I'm his dad. Remember the one that shows up at the club every now and then? He comes up and reports and tells me everything he's doing. I said, do you know? Tell me what you're doing.
I think I know who you're talking
about. You know what I'm talking about? Goofy little kid. If that's the... He's just weird, odd. He's odd.
I mean, a lot of people are odd, but I don't know.
He has a weird...
I suspect everybody.
He has a weird fucking vibe to him. Whenever he sees me, he gives me a full report of where he's been. Maybe I haven't seen him in years. You know what I mean? And I'm going, dude, you don't tell me where you've been, man. I'm not your dad. Oh, yeah. Just looking weird shit.
Well, maybe he just like wants a father figure.
Yeah, I guess so. But there's just something odd about the way he acts.
Yeah.
So he acts like a sociopath or a psychopath.
Maybe. I never got that vibe, but you know, I've gotten that off of other people we know.
He has that. He has that fucking pathological liar speech pattern. I don't trust it as soon as I hear it. Okay, go ahead.
John Robertson said, good show, guys. Great topic for my birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I found this like a really fascinating topic, actually. So after this one, it seems like he went to, because he did a little bit of a cross-country kind of thing after this. So after this, he turns up in Portland, Oregon. And the next woman he killed was actually younger. She was only 30. Her name was Beata Withers. She was divorced, and she had a 15-year-old son. And she also ran a boarding house. And again, she was found strangled and raped after she was dead. He actually stuffed her in a trunk in the attic. That's where they found her. That was the shitty thing. I think her son found her, actually. Because they were looking for her. They thought she had just left. And they said, oh, well, she had all her clothes and stuff were in this trunk up in the attic, so we should go check and see if her clothes are still there. But that's where her body was. So they found her up there. Only 2 days after that, another landlady was found, again, strangled and raped. And this time he stuffed her in, like, behind a furnace, like, in the basement. So it seemed like he was making, like, a half-assed attempt to, like, hide the bodies, but not really. You know what I mean? Because people found him, like, pretty much immediately. Her name was Virginia Grant. He had also robbed her house. I believe he did that pretty commonly. Like I said, that's how he made his living, just by robbing, taking jewelry and shit like that, cash. Then only a couple of days after that, they found another woman, also a landlady whose name was Mabel Fluke. She was, again, strangled and raped after she was dead, and they found her body in the attic crawl space of the boarding house that she had. So, again, like I said, I kind of feel like he seems like he's not so much getting off on the actual killing as he just wants a dead body to rape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's just facilitating getting a dead body to rape. Because he doesn't seem to be torturing them or getting off on their fear, them being afraid of him or anything like that. It seems like it's almost like, you know what I mean?
Well, Papa 77 clarified what I said earlier. He says he's making his own sex doll.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Because it seems like he's not... Because, you know, some serial killers really get off on the prolonged torture and
You're into
fear.
The power aspect.
They're into, like, having power over this person being afraid of them and, like, causing them pain and stuff. He doesn't really seem to be into that. He seems to just want to kill them so he can use the dead body.
Yeah, he's he's basically a fucking high caliber jack-off artist. This is masturbation.
Yeah.
And they say he's a chronic masturbator, which he probably couldn't keep his hands off himself. And that's because of his head injuries and other syphilis problems and shit that he had. He had impulse control problems. He wants to have sex, and he's willing to kill somebody to have it done to do this. And he doesn't really want them there. He just wants a body. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that fucking other crazy motherfucker from California. What's his name? Richard Chase, the vampire killer?
Yeah.
He was fucking bona fide crazy too.
Yeah, that dude was also a nut.
Now, I don't think he was entirely sexual though. He thought that his internal organs were turned into dust,
and that he had to drink blood.
He had to drink blood to live.
He seemed to genuinely believe that.
Yeah, but he was kind of like that too, from what I remember. He wasn't too much into fucking torture or anything. He would go in and shoot people and shoot the baby and then drink blood.
Yeah, it seemed like he was just like he just had an objective.
Yeah,
like he was a goal-oriented killer. He wasn't like he didn't really get off on the process.
I don't recall there being a sexual element to it, but he was bona fide schizophrenic. He had a bunch of problems. That dude
also was very mentally ill.
Yeah,
as this guy is also.
Yeah, he reminds me of Richard Chase. I think it's Richard.
Yeah,
Richard, right?
Yeah, we did a show about him a while back. I think it's funny because I was watching another documentary and listening to another podcast about this guy, about Earle Nelson, and they said kind of the same thing.
Richard Chase?
Where it's just kind of like their MO isn't similar, but
I think it's the same situation.
In the sense that they have the same situation where they're very clearly quite mentally ill.
Yeah.
Like I said, not excusing it, but it's almost more understandable because there's clearly
more like a natural disaster.
Something wrong with them.
It's more like a natural disaster.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of brain problems that he didn't cause, just caused by his nature. Disease and impacts to his head. And the next thing you know, he's going around doing this. You couldn't really blame him for it. It was something that was kind of done to him.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm excusing it, because obviously I'm not.
You still got to lock that bitch up.
Yeah. You can't let him run around. But I'm just saying that it wasn't anything that he did.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't even know if it was necessarily a choice that he made. I think he was at a point where it wasn't really a choice anymore.
Well, he started with syphilis.
Yeah.
And then head injuries and weird upbringing. And it just a culmination of a lot of stuff being piled onto him. He wasn't functioning. He's not functioning normally. I don't think he has a normal conscious process of choosing things. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. I think he's got to a point now where it's like not really a choice anymore. It's just like a compulsion that he can't that he can't like not do it.
Yeah.
It seems like, because it seems like as time went on, as these 2 years went on, that they got like more and more frequent. And he didn't really seem to be. He kind of sort of tried to hide the bodies, but not really. Like, he would just like leave them. Oh, I'm just gonna stuff. Like, he would leave it in the house, but he would just like leave it under a bed or.
Yeah, that's easy.
Stuff it under a furnace or something.
There's no long game he's playing. This is short term gratification. And he just happens to not be. They just can't catch him. They didn't have the technology. Nowadays, they'd catch this dude quick. DNA.
Well, yeah.
They knew who he was because they'd fucking have his DNA from when he was locked up in the fucking loony bin.
Yeah. Because he got locked up pretty early. Like, he was like only 17, 18. I mean, he was locked up 2 times, but that was the first time. So, the next one, there was another one that happened in Portland, Oregon. That was Blanche Myers. Now, she was in that boarding house with, like, a friend of hers, and I think maybe her son or her nephew or something like that, and they were just eating lunch or whatever, and Earl shows up wanting a room. Like I said, he never gave his real name. Like, he had a bunch of aliases. And she knew about the guy that was going around doing the shit, but she still wanted the money, I guess. So she gave him the tour. He said he was a lumberjack. And he's like, okay, I'll take the room. I'll be back later. And then she just went back to and ate with her friend or whatever. Now, her friend left. And when he came back, he found her dead underneath the bed in the room that Earl had rented. Like the one that he wanted. Like, he killed her and then stuffed her under the bed.
Now, Papa 77 said that Chase did have sex with dead women, and that was the only women he could have sex with, were dead ones.
Yeah.
And then he was also drinking. So I read a book about him, but that was a long time ago. I was in the Army. It was like 93. So I forgot all the details. I wasn't sure if there was a sexual element to it. I remember he thought he was a Nazi. He was big into like the Holocaust. He would fucking walk around with a .22 pistol and fucking shoot people and go in their houses and shoot them and drink blood and.
Yeah, he had problems.
Yeah. Thought his fucking internal organs were fucking disintegrating. If he didn't have blood, he'd die.
Yeah.
I thought maybe there was a sexual element to it, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done a show about that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Papa said Chase couldn't get a hard on if the woman was alive.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So he was like a straight up necrophile and blood drinker.
Yeah.
So he had all kind of problems.
But he was crazy though too. He was a bona fide.
he was
schizophrenia.
He was very crazy.
Yeah.
I think that might have been an issue with this dude also.
Yeah.
At least in the sense that, I mean, they did say when they admitted him to the mental hospital that he legit like had visions and heard voices and all, and the voices were like telling him to kill himself and stuff like that, which like that sounds like textbook schizophrenia to me. But yeah,
schizophrenia and all that brain damage.
Well, yeah,
and
I mean,
all that
obviously,
shit.
I'm sure
it's usually not one thing. It's usually several things happening with these guys.
I'm sure it didn't help. All of this stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's like a perfect storm of shit happening. It makes
and it's sad because it's like so many fucking innocent people have to, you know, at least almost 24 women that they know of died because of this motherfucker. You know what I mean? They're
not all crazy though. Some of them are just got weird.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why I found this one fascinating. I find them all fascinating. This guy, like I said, clearly you're like, okay, well, he's crazy. You know what I mean? Like there's it's in some ways like the ones that aren't crazy
are worse
because it's like they're very deliberately know what they're doing.
D'Angelo was not crazy.
No, not at all.
He could be a cop. He was evidently a decent cop and fucking was I think he was in the army too. He was evil. He loved fucking...
Yeah, some people are just straight up evil. Yeah. They're not crazy.
He had a huge power trip about fucking, abducting, basically fucking coming in through your window and holding a hostage, fucking holding the wife hostage while you sexually assaulted the wife in front of the husband or the husband outside the room, and eventually he'd kill them both and shit. He was fucking nuts. But he wasn't crazy. He was just evil. Very, very evil.
Yeah, this dude's crazy.
This dude's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nasty Nathaniel says, howdy folks, hey, how are you doing? And then Kiss78 says, greetings from Transylvania.
Okay.
Well, hey, how is it in Transylvania? I've never been there. But yeah, so he stole some shit from this woman too, like engagement ring and some cash and stuff like that. Then the next one he killed was like I said, he's going kind of cross country a little bit. The next one that they know of was December of 1926, and he killed a woman named Mrs. Brevard, I think is her name. She was 41, and that was in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Killed the same way. Then there was one in Kansas City, Missouri. Bonnie Pace, she was 23. And also in Kansas City, Missouri, a 28-year-old woman named Germania Harpin. And that one, she also ran a boarding house. He also killed her 8-month-old son, who was in the crib. He strangled the baby with his own diaper.
Weird.
Which I'm not saying all the shit that he did before was great, but the fact that he killed an 8-month-old baby, that he was willing to do that.
Yeah. Was probably making noise.
Right, but
that's what he was thinking.
Nobody else was in the house though, so it's like not like he could have just left him.
He wanted to get it on with his body though. He didn't want that baby crying. That's probably what all
I guess.
That's probably all that was.
Like, wow, that was like. I mean, everything he did was fucked.
Yeah,
up,
this
but
dude
that was like extra fucked
This
up.
dude is like a shark. He don't give a shit.
I guess not.
And you're reading into it. You're reading into humanity there. He wasn't really like that. He was just like, oh, this is making too much noise. Okay, now I'm gonna have sex with the mama. That's probably all it was. Nothing really banal, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, they don't. I know they don't.
It's not high-minded shit. No,
they don't think about it. You always say high-minded like it's an insult, but it's just kind of like. That's why I'm kind of fascinated. But I know they don't think like me. I know they don't. But it's like that's why I find them interesting.
Yeah, they're in the gutter.
Because I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and this dude fucking basically is in the gutter for real too. He's probably homeless or semi-homeless.
Like I said, it seems like he's just wandering around.
Yeah.
So he did like these 3 or 4 murders like in like 1 month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in spring of 1927, he turns up in Philadelphia, and there he strangled a 53-year-old woman named Mary McConnell, and then he went to Buffalo, New York, in late May, and killed a 53-year-old woman named Jenny Randolph.
How'd he get over there?
And then who knows? Trains probably.
Trains, yeah.
I imagine. Like I said, he had money because he would like steal shit.
Okay, yeah.
and pawn it.
All right.
Like, he stole shit from people he killed, like rings, like jewelry and shit like that, and cash and stuff.
Okay.
Then he went to Detroit in early June, this is 1927, and killed another 53-year-old woman named Fannie Mae, and then another woman who I don't know what her age is, named Maureen Atorthy. And then he ended up in Chicago only 3 days after that and killed a 27-year-old woman named Mary Sietsma. And at this point, I think we're at about 20 victims at this point, like I said, in several different states.
And the ages are jumped down right there, which tells me it's indiscriminate. It just depends on who he can
Yeah, I just think it's like an opportunity.
It's opportunity, yeah.
Because I think he just turns up at a boarding house.
And the boarding home is going to be
and whoever is running the boarding house,
going to be
if
a
it's a
middle-aged
woman,
it's going to be a middle-aged
then
woman.
he's going to kill her.
That's what he's going to get.
You know what I mean?
It's not going to be a girl in her teens running a boarding house. It's going to be a middle-aged woman. So that's what he's going for. It's just opportunity.
Yeah. So
if she was 18, he'd do that too. It's
well,
just,
as we'll learn, because
yeah,
we'll see what's going to happen in a minute. So then he starts going back toward California, I guess, like he turns back toward that. But he goes up into Canada. He was in Minnesota and he crossed the border into Canada. So he goes to Winnipeg and he stopped at like a thrift store and he had like kind of a nice suit on, but he sold the nice suit and then he bought like working clothes and he got a little bit of money. And then he found another boarding house pretty much immediately, owned by a woman named Catherine Hill. And while he was walking around this neighborhood, he meets a 14-year-old girl named Lola Cowan. Now this girl, she came from like a pretty poor family, and I guess that her brother made these little paper flowers, and then she went door to door selling them, like trying to make money for her family because her parents were unemployed. So, like her dad was sick or something.
That's the same as begging, basically.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at least you're giving him something for the money, you know what I mean? So, they're pretty sure, I mean, they know that he killed her because of shit later. But they don't know, like, nobody saw them together, but they're just assuming that he probably just saw her walking around. Now, so he got a room at Catherine Hill's boarding house, although they don't think he ever stayed there. But they didn't really notice that he didn't stay there, you know what I mean? Because there was other people in and out. But they did, other people around Winnipeg did kind of see him walking around. They saw him at a barber shop. They saw him in the thrift store again. Like, you know what I mean? They saw him around. And, you know, they saw him on the trolley. Shit like that. Now, a couple of the witnesses said they saw him with like a fat roll of money. And we're kind of wondering where he got that from. Well, it turned out that he had got the money from stealing, as usual. Because what happened was, he had come across this woman named Emily Patterson. He kind of, so he left the boarding house he was staying at. And then this woman, Emily, was cleaning a house, like at another place. And so he managed to talk his way in there and killed her and raped her dead body. And then hid it. And this is pretty fucked up. I don't know if it happened this way. This might have just been, like, for newspapers of the time. But the husband comes home and finds the wife gone, right? And he was beside himself. So the story goes that he kneels down by his bed to pray that his wife will be found safe and alive and blah, blah, blah. And he's down there by the bed, and then he sees a part of his wife's wool sweater, like a sleeve or something like that, sticking out from, like, underneath the bed. And he goes like that, and he touches her hand, and it's cold. Her dead body is under the fucking bed. When he was just, like, praying to fucking...
That might be true.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story that went around. Yeah. Like, it sounds like it's made up, but it might not be. I mean, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, he found his wife under their bed, dead, and, like... raped.
Well, he did that. That was one of his MOs, right?
Yeah, like, sticking him under the bed. Yeah. You know what I mean? So... Now, the thing about it, I have to say, like, the Canadian police, they were pretty on the ball in this situation because they had heard about this motherfucker, and they kind of had a description of him. And the thing about it, you know, he's kind of crazy, so he wasn't really trying to hide shit. Like, and he was pretty distinctive looking. So there was descriptions of him going, it's like, yeah, we saw this dude doing this, that, and the other thing. And so they knew who to look for, you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't, like, hiding. So when they found out, when they were investigating the Emily Patterson murder, they found out that he'd been staying at this other boarding house that Catherine Hill and her husband owned. So they went back there, and Catherine was like, oh, there's no way. He seemed like such a nice man, and he had a Bible, and he was so friendly, and blah-de-blah. Like, yeah. I would immediately be suspicious. Yeah. You come and carry a fucking Bible. I'm like, what the fuck are you hiding? But yeah. But back then, they didn't think that, I guess. So yeah. He came in under a different name. He came in under Mr. Woodcoats, I think is the name that she gave him. And, yeah, so they're like, yeah, we think that maybe he's, like, a bad person. So she goes up and looks in his room that he had rented. And as soon as they opened the door of that room, they knew that there was something dead in there. Like, it was, like, that telltale smell. Mm-hmm. And they're like, it didn't look like he'd stayed in there. Like, nobody, like, the bed hadn't been slept in and all this other kind of stuff. But they looked under the bed, and they found the body of that 14-year-old girl, Lola Cowan.
He took her home.
Yeah. He took her to his room that he had rented. Yeah. Under an assumed name, but still. Yeah. Like, he wasn't hiding. He was walking around. Other people saw him.
He kept her for a while then, huh?
I don't know how many days. I don't think it was that long. But he, and he hadn't stayed in the room. He just rented the room, killed the girl at some point, I'm assuming in that room, and then stuffed her under the bed and then just left. And then went someplace else.
Killed her there, yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder how he talked her into coming to that room with him.
Lord knows.
It was some kind of ruse.
I'm sure it was. Hey, I'll buy all your flowers if you come here. I've got the money up in my room. You
Might
know,
have been a job.
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing.
A job or something.
And people were probably more naive back then. Yeah. I kind of feel like, and they're just like, oh, okay, he seems like a nice man. You know what I mean?
Offered her a job doing something at his boarding house or something like that.
But yeah, that's the thing. So
as a cleanup girl or something, as a maid, something like that.
But yeah, and he got her back and then did the same thing. And this is a 14-year-old girl. Yeah. Like, he strangled her and then, like, raped her dead body and stuffed her under the bed in his own room that he rented. So yeah, and like I said, it didn't really take that long for him to catch him at this point because a lot of people had seen him, and people seemed like they knew what to be on the lookout for. He was trying to pretend, because he was, like, talking to some dudes, and he was trying to pretend that he was from there, but he used terminology that a Canadian wouldn't use. So they knew that he was American. Yeah. You know what I mean? So so the dudes were like, yeah, that's us, so we're going to, like, turn him in. So there was that. So they were actually able to kind of, like, keep track of where he was at, because people were, like, reporting him. There was also, like, rewards. You know what I mean? Like, if you saw him. So they actually ended up catching him. He was probably only on the lam for like a couple of days or something. They ended up catching him. I think it was only like 3 or 4 miles from the U.S. border. So he might have been trying to like get back in the United States. But they caught him. So he stopped in like a convenience store or something like that, like to buy some food. And they, like, the guy working there, like, recognized him, and they called the cops and they came and got him. So they eventually caught him. Now, he tried to say, no, I'm not that guy. My name is Virgil Wilson, and I'm just a poor lowly laborer. I'm just trying to, like, make work. I don't have anything to do with guerrillas of any kind or anything like that. But they're like, yeah, whatever, motherfucker. We know who you are. So here's the thing. Now, because he had killed 2 people in Canada, Canada wanted to get the fucking mitts on him. So, yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of states in the U.S. He killed a bunch of people there too, and they're like, "Well, we want a piece of that motherfucker too." Canada's like, "No, we're having him," and they still had the death penalty then. At least in this part of Canada, they did. This was Manitoba. I think it's Manitoba. So they throw. Okay, so this motherfucker, it's not even quite over yet. They throw him in a fucking cell, and they said, as was standard procedure, they took his shoes and his belt and there's anything that he could run away with or kill himself with or hurt anybody with, or they took everything away from him. Motherfucker escaped from the cell.
I wonder how he did that.
They don't know. It's like they just came back in the fucking cell. They think he picked the lock somehow.
Yeah.
Because they said the fucking cell door was open when they got. They said they left him for like 5 minutes.
Weird.
Like to go get a fucking sandwich or something, and then they come back and the motherfucker's gone.
I wonder how he picked the lock.
I don't know, but they're like, yeah, he did. He was gone, and he didn't have any shoes on or anything. They said he just fucking took off. So, so there's that. So they got a posse together, and then went looking for his stupid ass. So they did actually find him. Here's the funny part, though. So Earl runs away, and he ends up in this barn. And he, like I said, he didn't have any shoes on. He found like an old sweater. For some reason, I was picturing the fucking cabin from Friday the 13th Part 2 with like the fucking fisherman sweater and the Jason's mom's severed head. I just thought of that. He didn't find any shoes. However, he did find a pair of ice skates. So he broke the blades of the ice skates off and used those as shoes, thinking that was gonna fly.
Yeah, it didn't look right.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's just like walking around in like this janky looking sweater and ice skates with the blades broken off for shoes.
Yeah.
Like walking around like that. And he walks up to a guy trying to bum some cigarettes.
Yeah.
And the dude gives him a cigarette. It's like, what the fuck is this all about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like the fact that he thought that he looked normal enough to just like go up to a guy and think that was going to be normal. It's like, yeah, that didn't really work out. So obviously this guy, he was just like a farmer or something. And he's just like, this must be that motherfucker that escaped. I'm pretty sure. So he called the cops and the cops came and got him. You know what I mean? So it's like the ice skates thing that fucking killed me. So
he's just working with what he had.
I guess. But the fact that he was ballsy or crazy enough to think that people were going to just like look at that and think that was okay.
The weird thing is that he came across ice skates before you came across shoes.
Canada.
Well, yeah.
I guess. Well, I mean,
it must have been in a barn.
It was a barn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they must have been in the barn. He's like, there's some ice skates.
Hey, some ice skates. That'll work. I'll just break these blades off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, Jesus Christ. So yeah, so they take him into custody. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Earl never, ever, ever confessed to a single one of those crimes. He continued to assert his innocence until the very end. There was a big long trial. They had all these people come, and some people came, in his defense and everything like that. But really, I mean, they're like, look, really, they only tried him for... I think they only tried him for the Emily Patterson murder, because that was the one that happened in Canada. I don't even know if they tried him for the little girl's murder, even though they legit, like, found the body, like, in his room.
Yeah.
But that was enough, like, to get the death penalty at that time. And they tried to make it seem like... I don't know. Like, he just came out. It's like, I'm a good Christian man. I would never do anything like that. And it's just like all this other kind of crap. But they had all these people come. They had people come from the United States and everything like that going, no, bitch is crazy. Like, and they would say like all the crazy shit that he did. I think his wife came and like all these other psychiatrists and stuff. And so they all come there. And honestly, it really didn't take that long for the jury's like, yeah, fucking no.
Dude, crazy.
Yeah. So they sentenced him to death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like you should.
Like you do.
Yeah.
And, like I said, other than all of the witness stuff, they found other shit that he had. Like, for example, like they found a knife that he had on him that had, like, electrical burns on it. And they knew that this was from one of the crimes that he'd committed in the U.S. was he had cut, like, a lamp cord or something like that. And it burned it.
Yeah.
So they knew that was from that crime scene, you know what I mean? So there was, like, other things, too, that were, like... But they were like, yeah, we're pretty sure this is the dude. Like, everybody... They had, like, 40 people, like, identify him, like, in a lineup or something. Like, yeah. But, yeah, he said shit like... And this is a quote. Murder just isn't possible for a man of my high Christian ideals.
Yeah.
That's what I say about that. So, yeah. People with high Christian ideals have been murdering people for thousands of years. Yeah. So it's like, I don't really know why you think you're any better.
There's shit in the Old Testament tell you to do it.
Exactly.
Killing Philistines and shit. Destroying Canaanites.
That doesn't count. They're like not really people.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. That's how they justify it.
Well, they're going to say, well, that was the Jews.
That's what I mean. It's like that. It's like they other them, so it's like it makes it easier. It's like, well, they're not like us, so it's fine.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that the Old Testament stuff was all Jews.
Yeah. Before
Christianity, so they would go that way. No, Christians kill each other.
Of course they do.
Fucking the Protestant and the Catholics killed each other for fucking centuries.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Religion doesn't make you any better a person.
No.
And in fact, I would argue...
Might make it worse.
I think it makes you worse, because I think that...
Depends on what the deal is. But
I think that if you need religious belief to make you a good person, then you're not a good person.
The Chinese are atheists. They do some fucked up shit to animals.
Yeah, I'm not saying that like atheists don't do fucked up shit.
Yeah,
I'm just saying in general, if you need a fictional God in the sky to tell you that something is bad, then you are not a good person. That's all I'm saying.
A lot of people are like that.
Well, I know.
A lot of people are not very intelligent.
That's what scares me.
They need a defense. They need a.
That's why I don't like to leave my house.
They need a safety put on.
That's why I don't like to leave my house. Because people are crazy out there.
Yeah.
Tammy said maybe he didn't remember the killings. I mean, it's entirely possible he didn't. I mean, I kind of feel like he probably did, but
that's why he was running.
I mean, he was. They did toy with the possibility. They said, well, maybe he is like so crazy that, you know, insanity defense. But he was assessed by a bunch of different psychiatrists who said, yeah, he's obviously got problems, but it's like he knew what he was doing and he knew that it was bad.
He's crazy and he knows he's crazy, but he knew he was killing people.
Yeah.
He knew he was killing women.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to admit it.
I think that's probably what it was, because he never did. Yeah. He never did. So
he's saving face.
As far as they know, like I said, that he killed 22 people, but they think that it was more than that, because there's a bunch. If you go on the Wikipedia page, there's like a little list of like ones that sound pretty similar and happened in areas where he was at the time.
Yeah.
That were probably him.
I meant twice that.
But they just couldn't prove it.
Opportunity.
But yeah, they did actually end up hanging him in January of 1928, and he said something in the end. I kind of feel like his last words are usually quoted as, "I forgive those who have wronged me," which seems a little asshole-ish. But I don't think that's exactly what he said. I think he said something along those lines, but it was a little more nuanced than that. I think he said something prior to that about it's like, oh, forgive shit I've done and stuff like that. But he never admitted to doing anything bad.
Papa 77's asking me what does BTK
Dennis think about?
What does Dennis think about which statement is he talking about?
What the thing that I just said about
must have been, but
about a good Christian man not being able to do any of that. That's kind of what I'm assuming.
Okay, all right. Well, he's got his cross.
Because Dennis was also a good Christian man, and look what he fucking did.
Cross. Yeah. Well, you have to understand,
Exhibit B.
You have to understand. Gotta understand something. Sometimes, love the sinner but hate the sin. You can still be a man of God and be in with God and everything's good and have sin and be forgiven.
That's how.
See, that's another bullshit thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do whatever fucked up shit I want, but as long as I confess it and like say, "Oh, Jesus, take over," like you can still go to heaven. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck that. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, and actually,
that's some bullshit right there.
There are Christians that say that, but there are also stuff in the New Testament that says, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That you can't. You can't commit sins knowing you're going to commit sins and then expect to be forgiven of it. You can't.
It's like you get in.
You can't game the system.
You can't just get a fucking get out of jail free card. Jesus says it's fine.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want.
That's just.
That's not how that shit works.
That's just superficial Christians. Ones that are trying to find it out.
Yeah, there's a loophole. They're trying to get a loophole.
And when you study the New Testament, anything the Bible says, it also says the opposite. Anything the New Testament says later on, it'll say the opposite. So you can kind of go. You can
cherry pick whatever the fuck you want. You can
kind of interpret it. Yeah.
Whatever horrible beliefs you have, you can find it confirmed in there. Whatever nice beliefs you have, you can probably find that confirmed.
Good example is in Pauline type material. They're asking, is it okay, me as a Christian, if I go into a Roman family, and can I eat the meat that they serve me, even though that meat was sacrificed before a pagan god? And the answer would be in one place, oh well, as long as you know that those gods aren't real, that's okay.
Yeah, you're allowed.
But then later on it says, no,
God's gonna smite.
No, God will fucking kill you if you do that. You will be. You can't do that. Yeah. So it says
even
both.
That seems like a really, really small.
It always kind of says both. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, you can just pick and choose whatever the fuck you want out of there, which is why it's useless. Yeah. It's useless as a guide for morality of any kind, because it says everything and nothing.
And it's not a law book. There's no real laws in it. It is a cultural. It's a cultural artifact. That'd be a good way to put it. it's literature.
Yeah.
It's religious literature, and it was written as religious literature. That was the genre it was written in.
Yeah.
In the Greek.
Just stop taking it so fucking
All
serious.
the other religions were written
Don't run
in
your
that.
life by that bullshit.
All the other Roman religions were written in that same Greek style. That only religions were written in, not history books, not political treaties or anything like that. It was written from day one as religious material. So it was a genre of literature of the time. So you don't take it seriously today.
Or
Not to say that
shouldn't.
it's bad. Not to say that it's bad. It's just it's very old. You know.
Like I said, if you need that for your morality, you've got some serious problems.
Yeah.
CB said BTK got outsmarted and beat by a floppy disk. I know, and I love
Yeah.
that. That is the ultimate boomer way
Yeah.
for a fucking serial killer to get caught.
That's only one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that he was beaten by his concept, by his belief in that police were honest.
Which is also hilarious.
Yeah, if I send you a CD that you couldn't trace me by that, right? You tell me the truth.
Oh,
He
of
said,
course
no, of course
not.
not. Yeah. He said,
And then he had the audacity to get mad.
He got mad. You lied to me.
He's like, duh.
Yeah.
He's like, I wanted to catch you, you dumb motherfucker.
Yeah.
You're a serial killer.
Dennis believed in honesty and fair play. That's some weird shit.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, of all people, to expect honesty and fairness.
You lied.
And that's what offends him.
Yeah.
He murders people,
Yeah.
but gets offended when a cop lies to him trying to catch him.
Yeah.
About a floppy disk.
Yeah.
That is hysterical.
That's even more historical than the
that
floppy
makes
disk
no
itself.
fucking sense at all.
No, it made sense in fucking.
It makes
BTK.
sense if you're a crazy person.
If you're a BTK,
I'm sure.
because he was a man of principle. And he thought the cops were men of principle too.
He's like me. We're simpatico. You're just like me.
You have to remember, he was fucking. His best friend said, no, he was good for the community. Yeah, he did some bad stuff. He had problems, but he was good for the community. He was a good guy. That's what his best friend said.
I will never understand how a dude who's friends with
There's
another
another one
dude
who was just like him.
who is a serial killer.
Yeah, he was a dude just like him.
Oh, well, I know he killed 20-something women, but he was a good dude otherwise.
Yeah,
Fuck that.
He just had some problems. Yeah.
No.
They were
He's
interviewing
not a
him. They
good
were
dude.
interviewing him, and he told the newspaper. He goes, "You tell Dennis fucking that
I remember that.
I'm his friend. I don't care what anybody says about him. I'm still his friend."
I'm sorry. I find out you're a serial killer. You're not
Yeah.
my fucking friend
Yeah.
anymore, okay? It's just kind of like,
He's
you are
fucking
not
loyal.
a good person.
He's fucking loyal.
I don't care if you just, like, if you
Yeah.
did. Look, I read to children as I do this. That doesn't matter. All of that is erased. I'm sorry. All of that is
Yeah.
erased. You don't get to be, oh, he's a good guy. Oh, except he's a serial killer. That's not how that works. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. I'm just like, that blows my mind that somebody would be like that.
Yeah.
Even if it was my own fucking family member and they turned out to be a serial killer, I'm like, yeah, you're not a good
Yeah.
person. You're just not.
Yeah.
I don't care what the fuck else good shit you did. It doesn't cancel it out. It just doesn't. Yeah, Nasty Insanity said, look at all the people who said Ted Bundy was a nice guy. Even
Yeah.
the fucking judge
The judge said he would have made a great lawyer. What
was like
happened to
kind
you,
of
man?
kissing his ass.
I don't know what happened to you, man. Yeah, you could have made a great lawyer, but
Oh, but
kissing his-
you went the wrong way or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. He said something like that, and I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of like, oh, is that what we're saying now? It's
That
like,
was
can
just-
we
It
please?
was a very old-fashioned judge.
I mean, just the way they minimized
Yeah.
the shit that he did.
Yeah.
Again, that just kind of blows
Yeah.
my mind.
Judge was sucking his dick.
Yeah. I'm like,
Basically.
he murdered a bunch of women. He
Yeah.
raped, severed heads.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, the judge was like, fucking, too bad you did all this. I like you. You'd have been a good lawyer.
What a shame.
Yeah, what a shame. Why'd you waste your life? Motherfucker. Okay, look.
I don't get it. All right. I'm getting kind of hungry.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry. Let's shut it down.
All right. So we've been on for like 3 hours. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. I actually had a good time researching this one. I know that sounds kind of fucked up, but this was actually like a really good story, and I didn't really know that much about it. And I'm always down to like talk about crazy motherfuckers like this. You know how it is. So yeah, hopefully
know
you
what's
guys
gonna happen next
enjoyed
week.
it. We know what's gonna happen next week because next week
Yeah.
we're gonna be doing Robert Lee Yates because Papa77 gave us a very, very, very generous super chat. in order to do Robert Lee Yates next week. So we are going to do that next week. So it'll be another serial killer show, which they're kind of my favorite ones to do, honestly. I like doing all the shows, but those are my favorite ones. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. I got through all the notes. I'm very proud of myself without getting too distracted. But we did go on for 3 hours, as we usually do, but that's okay. So Friday, we will be back for the Sidetrack show. It's Valentine's Day, obviously. It'll probably be a little bit shorter because we're gonna go to Memento Mori. They're having Valentine's Day Memento Mori on Friday night, so we're gonna go to that after. So it'll probably only be like an hour and a half or something like that. But hopefully you guys can join us in pregame on Friday night. Spend Valentine's Day with us for a little while. So yeah, we will see you guys again on Friday. Have a good day tomorrow, and have a good night, you